And welcome to the January 10th, 2023 regular board meeting of the Roswell Independent School District. I now call this meeting to order. May I have a roll call, please?
Homer Ellis?
Yes.
James Edwards?
Yes.
Bill DeSantis?
Yes.
Ryan Fritsch?
Yes.
Jack Cheney?
Yes.
Okay, we'll now have the Pledge of Allegiance and salute to the New Mexico flag led by our Valley View students.
Just turn.
Everybody turn.
We're good. Ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
Here's how you act when no one is looking, how you treat people who cannot help or hurt you, and what you would do if you knew you'd never be found out. Remember, what's right is right, even if no one else is doing it, and what's wrong is wrong, even if everyone else is doing it. So let's join together and help each other be people of great character.
Ready? You want to introduce yourselves at the microphone? You could tell us your name and your grades, or...
I'm Eliana.
I'm Abigail, a fifth grade student council member.
Go that way. Go that way. Go that way.
I'm Bella. I'm a student council member.
Good job.
I'm Kendra. I'm a student council member.
Good job.
My name is Noah Dominguez. I am one of the student council members.
Thank you.
My name is Samson Velasquez. I'm a student council member.
My name is Eileen Rico. I'm a student council member.
I'm Aaliyah Gonzalez, and I'm a student council member.
Good job.
I'm Allison Marquez, and I'm a fifth grade student council member.
I'm Emiraya Teran, and I'm a student council member.
My name is Nehemiah Cortez. I'm in fifth grade, and I'm a student council member.
At our school, we have Capturing Kids' Hearts.
We like to share good things that happen to us each day.
A good thing that happened to me was that I got to spend time with my older sister by playing games with her.
A good thing that happened to me was I was able to spend time with my family over the weekend.
We would like you, school board members, to share a good thing that has happened to you today.
Who would like to go first?
I shot a 38 on the front nine at Nimi.
Next. I woke up and it's a good day.
Go ahead, Miss President.
Anyone else?
I get to be here with you all tonight, and you sure did. You got us. Good job.
The good thing that happened to me today is that I woke up and I read the newspaper and I'm still here. I was going to say the obituaries.
A good thing that happened to me today just happened just a few minutes ago with y'all saying the Pledge of Allegiance and your oath of good citizenship. It was greatly appreciated.
Anybody else?
We got our
Mr. Cole,
superintendent
the
down there.
superintendent?
So I have to echo their sentiments. The best thing that's happened to me so far today is watching you guys do this and going through this exercise. So thank y'all for being here. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Mr. Cole?
Alrighty, Mr. Leck, are there any modifications to the agenda?
Yes, ma'am, Madam President, members of the board, we have one modification to the agenda. Under information items, the University High School, Early College High School 90-day plan presentation will need to be postponed until next month. We had a traveling snafu with our principal who's en route to a Perkins conference and was unable to be here tonight, but we'll have her ready to go with both schools for the next one.
Alrighty, and we're gonna approve the agenda with flexibility. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion made by Mr. Edwards and a second made by Ms. Sanchez. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it and the motion carried. Already recognition tonight?
Yes, ma'am. Madam President, members of the board, we have one. And as I start introducing this, if Mr. Bewley would make his way to our microphone over there so he could tell us a little bit more, we have Maria Victoria Vargas, Sierra Middle School essay winner. Why is bilingualism important? So, Mr. Bewley, could you tell us a little bit more, please?
Yes. This is Beatriz Valentin, one of our fine ESL teachers, doing a great job over there, a real asset to Sierra. Maria Victoria nació en Venezuela. She's one of our newest students, and her essay was in both English and Spanish.
Wow.
Porque es importante el bilingüismo. Is it that correctly? Okay. We told her she didn't have to read it all, but if you guys have some questions, puede contestar en inglés y en español. Los dos, ¿verdad? Okay. Yeah. So if you guys have any questions about her essay, you have a copy of that, so you could read your version that you wanted to. But I thought it was very important for us to, as one of our goals is increasing our number of students that are truly bilingual and truly biliterate. She's our new star.
Awesome. Well, congratulations, Maria. And would you like to read your essay?
Does she have it? Does she have it in Spanish?
No,
Okay, I want
It's
to.
attached.
I didn't see it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, she's gonna read it.
Okay, I'm sorry.
¿Por qué es,
You don't have copies?
Yes, we do.
por qué es importante el bilingüismo? Primero, el bilingüismo es una herramienta fundamental, pero ¿por qué? Primero, ¿qué es el bilingüismo? El bilingüismo es la capacidad de hablar dos o más idiomas al mismo tiempo y tiene muchos beneficios. Algunos de los beneficios son entender a las personas extranjeras, prevenir enfermedades mentales, aumentar las habilidades sociales, alargar tus viajes al extranjero y aprender otros idiomas de manera fácil y rápida. Además, también puedes tener grandes trabajos, como ser especialista de recursos humanos, auxiliar de vuelo, escritor o periodista, profesor de la salud, profesional de la salud, profesor, guía turístico, etc. Las personas bilingües también tienen la oportunidad de obtener mayores ingresos. El bilingüismo para mí es una herramienta importante, ya que yo soy inmigrante y vengo de un país donde el español es la única lengua. El bilingüismo es importante para mí porque no solo me brinda buenas oportunidades, sino que también puede ayudarme a mejorar mis calificaciones, hacer amigos y tener un gran trabajo. Para mi familia es muy importante que hable inglés porque la situación en mi país es muy delicada. Esa es una de las razones por las que nos mudamos a los Estados Unidos. Aprender inglés para ser bilingüe es importante para mí porque me brinda muchas oportunidades y beneficios. En conclusión, el bilingüismo no es solo una herramienta importante, sino que también brinda más de un beneficio para tener mejor calidad de vida y diversidad lingüística.
Muy bien.
Thank you.
Outstanding.
Muy bien.
Are you going to speak?
Perdón porque mi español no es muy bueno. Pero, ¿qué quieres hacer en tu vida entonces de escuela?
Pues en mi vida yo quiero tener buenas calificaciones, graduarme y ir a una...
¿Maestra? ¿Querías
Maestra
No,
bilingüe.
Oh, I asked her if she wanted to be a teacher.
Yeah.
She said no.
yo quiero estudiar.
She wants to have good grades and graduate from college.
¿Para qué?
Su carrera.
Porque yo quiero ser diseñadora gráfica,
Because she
estudiar
wants
arte
graphic design
y estudiar arte,
and study art.
porque realmente es lo que me gusta, me encanta dibujar, sentarme a colorear y pues he decidido que me quiero dedicar a eso.
Because she
Yeah.
really like and enjoy drawing and,
Yeah.
and coloring,
Yeah.
and she wants to be a graphic designer.
Muy bien. Gracias, María.
De nada.
No, I was just going to say, as a bilingual teacher, throughout, since I started as an associate, I can say that I banked like a language bonus and found out that because of my speaking, my Spanish, it was worth like $51,000 for my retirement account. So it's interesting because French is worth 77 extra $1,000 to your retirement
Not you.
account. Not Mr. French, but if you speak French, and then if you speak German, it's $128,000, which is, I mean, it's a big bonus.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Congratulations.
Felicidades.
Madam President, if I may, real quick, with parental permission, RDI, if you have an opportunity to maybe be able to publish that in your, I think it's Thursday, that y'all have the page in your newspaper that's in Spanish?
Can you give me a minute to translate?
Okay. All right. I tell you what, I will make sure that a copy gets to the Roswell Daily Record with your permission.
This was the contest that we won on the public library. They have the contest for over there, and we compete with another members of our community over there.
Oh, wow. Well, I might reach out to them too as well to see if maybe they want to do a story. So awesome job.
She won $300.
Oh, yeah.
Alrighty, now we have inquiries and general comments. Ms. Whitcamp, has anyone requested to speak?
Yes, we only have one.
Alrighty, I'll go over our ground rules and then we'll invite the individual up. Please listen and speak with respect. No uncivil conduct will be permitted. Please do not discuss any specific student who is not your own. Please do not discuss confidential personnel matters, including those of a disciplinary nature, regarding any RISD employee. This should be discussed with the superintendent or the employee supervisor. Please self-monitor and observe the 3-minute time limit. You may be given a 30-second warning when your time is almost up. If needed to accommodate a large number of speakers and maintain a reasonable meeting schedule, the time limit for all speakers may be shortened. No sharing of time is permitted. Public commentary and dialogue is only guaranteed during the public forum, not throughout the meeting. Please search for answers on common ground. You may speak on any topic, whether it is on the agenda or not. Your input will be taken into consideration. Please be advised that the board may discuss your issue during the meeting, but by law, the board cannot take action on items that are not on the agenda. For the safety of yourselves and others, signs and placards are not permitted in the boardroom. However, you are invited to express your concerns during public forum or submit your concerns to the board in writing.
Yes, ma'am, we have Bridget Chicano.
Come on up to the mic. Yes, you can have a sit. Yeah,
We can pass.
I did 2 copies.
thank you.
I'll pass it out.
So I'm here today to address a policy that is not a district policy. I guess it's just a policy at my son's school. I've included my son's grades, pictures, because it's about a slit in the eyebrow that he's being in trouble for. I included pictures from the first day of school, 7th grade, and then all the way to 4th grade that he's had it. So hello, my name is Bridget Tefano, and my son is a student at Sierra Middle School. I'm here today to inform you of a policy I barely myself was aware of last week. It has become an issue for my son and now his education. My son Ezekiel has a slit in his eyebrow, which he has had for years. For some reason, it has barely become an issue at school starting last week. I had to pick my son up from school because he refused to cover his eyebrow with the Band-Aid, which I myself find it a little ridiculous, and he refused to wear makeup to cover it up. I am told that this is gang-related. My son is a straight-A student. He has a 4.0. He has had straight A's since the 3rd grade. He has scored very high on the state test multiple times, and he takes his education very serious. He is also a very respected athlete, and he excels in everything that he does. Let me see if I missed my face. I have heard nothing but good things about him and how respectful he is to his teachers, but I feel like he's being targeted now and treated differently because of the slit in his eyebrow, which I remind you he had since the first day of school. So this has been going, he's had it for 5 months now, and this is barely being addressed and brought to my attention as an issue. There's a teacher there that he feels like he is targeting him and is personally informing the other teachers that he needs to be sent to the office, which is taking time out of his day with, for school. So it's, he feels like he's being treated different, like as if he's a problem now. So he's always left school, and now he's dreading going because he feels like his teachers have treated him different now. It's not gang related. I personally had to Google a slit in the eyebrow because I didn't know it was gang related. And when you Google it, I've included the Google searches, it comes up as it's a trend. It's a fashion trend. It's a way to express yourself. The kids now are doing it. Celebrities are doing it. So I also had to Google those pictures, and so if this is gang related, then where do we stop or pick and choose what's gang related and what's not? Because colors can also be considered gang related, like the colors red and blue, which happen to be school colors. This policy is not a policy at all middle schools. I have called every middle school and asked myself personally. 30 seconds. Okay, this is, I'd hate to see my son or his peers miss school over something as little as a trend that causes no harm. I know there's bigger issues than this. I want to thank you for your time. I appreciate you listening, and I hope you consider revising this policy and make a change. Times have changed, and I feel like this policy is outdated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Alrighty, now we have our informational items, Mr. Luck.
Yes, ma'am. Madam President, members of the board, up first tonight will be Mr. Bewley recognizing some of our teachers with ESL.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Luck. We brought to you previously a program that Ms. Nita Walker, the Director of Multicultural Education, has brought to the district, which is Flashlight, which is designed to increase the capacity of our students in productive language, speaking and writing. And that's for both their Spanish and their English. So apparently they're doing such a good job that they recognize 3 of our teachers. You have a link to a video there. I know that there's a big game going on, so I'm not going to make us play it, but it's really professionally done. You look at it and you'll think that it's one of ours, because it's done very well, and it really features Roswell and the Southwest in a good way. So our teachers that were recognized are Hugo Loya from Missouri Avenue, Heather Palmer from Monterey, and Flor Bustillos from Mountain View. So they featured them and did a PSA, a commercial, and talked about what the kids were doing, and they interviewed some kids as well, those who have signed the permission slips. And I'm going to pass this out with your permission. So, besides coming and filming our kiddos, this is their newsletter, and inside there you're going to see that they featured Heather Palmer, and I think you'll like what she does with her dad and with her students. This was not attached to your board book.
Thanks, sir.
So we're all very excited about that. And they gave us permission to post the video, so we're going to get that put onto the website as well. And so we're all really proud of them. So, was it questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Madam President, members of the board, up next will be a presentation on comprehensive counseling program with the RISD. So I'm going to ask Ms. Burris if her and her team will come up and give us that presentation.
All righty. Thank you very much. Good evening, members of the board and guests. My name is Lisa Burris. I'm a school counselor at Del Norte Elementary. Thank you for allowing us this opportunity to present to you today. Our goal, excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm nervous. The goal we have for tonight is to inform the school board and the audience of the role and responsibilities of a professional school counselor as defined by the New Mexico Administrative Code. Currently, the roles and responsibilities of school counselors in Roswell are inconsistent within the district due to a lack of knowledge amongst principals and central office staff of the competencies stated for school counselors by the New Mexico Administrative Code and the American School Counselor Association. This causes the district counseling programs and counselors to be disjointed and less effective in creating and implementing comprehensive counseling programs district-wide. As school counselors, we are leaders. Not only are we presenting to you tonight, but we presented at the Southern Regional Education Board Conference last summer, and we will be presenting again at the conference this coming July. Tonight I have 3 RISD school counselors with me to discuss the role and responsibilities of school counselors. We have Robin Moreno from Monterey Elementary. I have Diane Capizzo from Mesa Middle School and Elizabeth Hetty from El Capitan Elementary. We'll go ahead and start with Robin.
As a collective group of school counselors, we work together to create a vision and aim for the direction of our counseling program in the district. Our vision is that every student will achieve personal and academic success through the Roswell Independent School Counseling programs. Students will develop social and emotional skills to become responsible, lifelong learners and successful contributing citizens ready for college and careers. Through our counseling programs, our aim is to empower students to be resilient, high school graduates with future success plans to become productive citizens who are lifelong learners. Counselors will advocate for equity and access for all students as they navigate their own paths to success. After this, each counselor has created a mission statement for their personal school counseling programs based off our vision and aim that we created collectively. We felt that it was not only important for the board and the audience to understand the direction and vision we have for the Roswell Independent School District Counseling Program as a whole and for each individual school, but we felt it was important that everyone understands the role of the school counselor. As school counselors, we are educators with specialized training and supporting students with academic, career, social, and emotional development. We are leaders who advocate and collaborate for systematic change and outcomes.
As counselors, our practices are directed by state law and national guidelines. The New Mexico Administrative Code, Section 6, Chapter 63, Part 6.9, outlines the expected competencies and responsibilities of the school counselor. And the American School Association, ASCA, has established ethical and professional standards as well as a model for comprehensive school counseling programs. You should have a handout entitled the ASCA National Model Executive Summary. That explains the primary components of a comprehensive school counseling program. The administrative code, as well as ASCA standards, align with each other and support each other. The New Mexico Administrative Code states that school counselors will develop and implement a comprehensive school counseling program, we refer to it as a CSCP, based on ASCA national standards, will coordinate activities within the counseling program, provide information to and facilitate counseling activities for all stakeholders. And by all stakeholders, we work and serve students, staff, parents, and community members and community agencies. You also should have a handout that is entitled Mesa Middle School Counseling Program. It's a brochure, and that was just provided as an example for you as one of the ways we communicate with our stakeholders. We serve as consultants to the school community. We provide individual and group counseling. We uphold the standards of the counseling profession, understand the cultural context of relationships, issues and trends in multicultural and diverse society. And we use technology to design, implement, and monitor and evaluate our comprehensive school counseling program. That is to say, it's a data-driven program.
And then to kind of piggyback off of some of the things that Diane just said, so we have many responsibilities as school counselors. Our programs cannot be effective and comprehensive if we are not visible and accessible to all stakeholders. Through collaboration with stakeholders, data analysis, and education to all stakeholders, we are able to advocate for equity, opportunity, and access across all student groups. Through different settings, such as individual, small group, and large group, we are able to deliver curriculum that assists students in academics, social, emotional, and college and career readiness skills. We collaborate with other counselors, teachers, parents, and administrators to help transition students, whether it be from teacher to teacher, grade to grade, school to school, or district to district. Among the previously stated responsibilities, we also refer students to outside mental health facilities and perform crisis interventions such as threat and suicide assessments when needed. Some of the elements that are addressed in a comprehensive school counseling program include setting goals and problem-solving skills, decision-making, exploration of college and career opportunities, problems hindering a student's academic success, including study skills, coping skills, and social skills. These, as well as other elements, are addressed in the individual, small group, and large group settings. Without all of the components that you have heard presented tonight, a school's counseling program cannot be successful or effective in addressing the needs of the students in our district. So if you guys have questions, we can answer, but.
I have one question, and great job to you all. Ms. Burns, I hope you're not nervous anymore. And my question is for you, and I just want to make sure my understanding is correct, because when you first started, it sounded like district-wide, we don't have the same understanding as a district for your role, your responsibilities. We're a little scattered on that. So that was my note. So what I love, now that we have a strategic plan, I feel like this could be an action step under our goal 2, where we talk about supporting learning, minimizing disruptions. I think that's a lever right there, that we develop a district-wide understanding related to the role and responsibilities of school counselors. Do you think that's a step we could take as a district at least? Let's define it. If it's in the strategic plan, we're looking at it, we're talking about it, you're smiling. What do you think?
Absolutely, we would love that. Yes.
Okay, awesome. So I feel like we'll be reaching out to them to assist with us with the definition. But now that we can add it here, it's something that we'll revisit. And I'd love to hear back from you to see, once we have that common understanding, how is it helping, or what are next steps that we can do to really support you all?
Excellent, that sounds great.
Anybody else?
I just wanted to ask, professional development or training, how do you prepare the rest of the counselors to deal with the issues and trends in a multicultural and a very diverse district?
So do you do that, or for the district, how do we,
Well, no, I mean, how do the counselors prepare?
other counselors? I just want to make sure I'm understanding your question.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, like, in order to have a school counseling license, you have to complete a master's degree, and that program encompasses those things. So we learn those things there, and we also learn a lot on the job.
Good.
And so we do rely on each other a lot and our experience, and say, hey, I have this situation. What should I do? What do you think is the best practice? And we work together to try to problem solve and figure out the things that we need to do.
And if I can add to that too, we've also been receiving coaching through SRED for the last couple of years in the district. And so we have a coach who is really kind of helping us through a lot of that as well. She's helping us design our programs so we are more cohesive. And so we're working with her every month on elements of our counseling programs to make sure that we are addressing some of those things as well.
Perfect. And is it all counselors that have access to the coach?
Yes. Yes. Elementary through high school.
The district does provide us with professional development, like when we come back from summer break, when we have our professional development days, but we also meet with professional learning communities, PLCs, whether it's monthly, whether it's quarterly, just to get together. And if there's a certain area we need to focus, we spend that time, an hour and a half, 2 hours together, just kind of brainstorming some next steps. Not only for our own programs, but as a collective, to make sure we can kind of all get on the same page.
Which is where our data comes into, because we do analyzing data, and that's kind of what our focus as a counseling program is right now, is really focusing on data. So that's something we're all trying to make sure we're implementing, and so that data helps with some of that as well.
What's one of those data pieces that you all monitor?
So we use Power School, we use.
But like
Rewrite
attendance, how do
Digital.
we know like you're doing your job and you're doing it well? What are we looking at for you to know?
So we do a needs assessment as well, whether we do it with staff, students, parents, we send it out, and they let us know, like, what are some things, maybe there's something that happened over the summer to their student that they feel like we need to add into our counseling program, and we use a lot of that to drive lessons that we hit with our students when we go for whole group lessons in the classroom, and we constantly are receiving referral forms too from parents that kind of guide some of those things, and as they collect, if we see we have a huge influx of students that are going through grieving, or a lot of them are really struggling with academic skills in a certain grade level, that kind of guides where we're going to do our groups or how we're going to deliver lessons to them.
Awesome.
Madam President, if I can, just real quick. So this is partly why they're here tonight, I would guess, is to try to explain that, this is tough. That every situation is so unique that there's not really a one size fits all whenever it's, well, this is this or this is that. We can look at Read Write Digital, we can look at Educator's Handbook, we can look at suspensions, we can look at pass-fail rate, and that's a tough one because they seem to have been the catch-all for lots of things. Well, I'll just get a counselor involved, and that's going to fix it. And so as we move forward and try to define our roles as to making sure that they can get the services to our kiddos, for some kids a win is simply coming to school, where for others it would be, having an emotional support group amongst their peers. It's a tough one, but these ladies right here, I laughed when they were like, the duties of a counselor, and I was like, well, for the last 2 years, it's been everything. That's, if you just put everything, that covers it all right there, and at a moment's notice. And so, this is a great opportunity to get this out and to get the ball rolling and to get it started. So I want to thank you guys. My apologies, Ms. Sanchez.
No, I know that in the past years, when I was in the district, we used to use our counselors a lot for duties and everything you can imagine. Is that still going on in the district, or they put a stop to that?
So one of the handouts, sorry.
It did say there that.
I'm going to defer. I'll defer.
Appropriate and inappropriate tasks for
Okay.
counselors, and it does specify that counselors should not ideally be on duty, because if we are on duty, we're not available to students. So ideally, that is not a role that counselors should be partaking in. We should be covering classes, any kind of duties.
But it doesn't happen.
But realistically,
Realistically,
we do cover duties. I don't think any of us cover classes like that. We've never been asked to do that. I think our principals are aware enough to know that they don't ask us to cover a class if there's not a sub or whatever. But we do try to help out with duties. I mean, everybody's got to pitch in, and sometimes you don't have enough people there to cover the duties, and you have to help. And so we do.
It also gives us a view of my personal experience. It gives me a view of kids in a different setting. So when I'm seeing kids on the playground versus kids in the classroom, I'm seeing different kids. And so it does give me some information and feedback about certain students I might be looking at as well. So I enjoy duty, but it's not a requirement that I technically would have to fulfill.
I don't think, at least my principal really doesn't make that a big primary part of my job. And I think maybe it used to be for some counselors, but it's not like the big thing that I do. My principal, if you were to ask him probably, what do I do? Duty, I don't know if he would even mention it, but I do help with duty. I mean, I do try to help with duty.
I'd just like to say that that's one of the areas where it's not consistent within the district. It varies from school to school. And this is my second year in this district, and I can say last year I was swamped with duties. Now I have a new principal, and she actually attended a presentation where she shared the list of duties. And it made a huge difference for me. I do some duties, but I'm not bogged down with duties every single day like I was. So
I just just don't think school counseling program stuff is on the top list of training for principals and central office staff. I just think it's something that people don't really know about because it's not talked about a whole lot. So we're trying to become more consistent and get it out there and say this is what we do, and we are helpful.
Madam President, this goes right in line with what we've been working on, that things are nameless, they're faceless. It doesn't matter who's what, where, or when, that the system is in place so that people know what to expect, the counselors know what to expect, the people, the principals, the teachers, and ultimately our parents and our students. I think that's a big one too, is providing a little bit of consistency as we, as the kiddos come up in grade level, because that's something that, we have seen we're gonna need this for a while and more. So we're actively looking and recruiting and working on ways to ensure that our schools are equipped and trained and ready to go.
And my last question, you mentioned a brochure like at Mesa, and I don't know if I'm just missing the brochure. Does anybody else have? Is it just down here?
Right there.
Thank you.
Those two.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, anybody else? And we'll make sure to follow up in a couple of months, so hopefully we can have that common definition. Awesome, thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our strategic plan.
Yes, ma'am, Madam President, members of the board. Next up, we will have, so we unrolled the strategic plan last month, and one of the things that we're going to work on very hard is that every month we bring a piece of strategic plan. So, for instance, if you were to have a request for something out of the strategic plan that you said, hey, I'd like to hear a little bit more about this, or I'd like to hear a little bit more about that. I don't want to get too bogged down in a meeting with multiple sets, but tonight we want to talk just a little bit about curriculum and our adoption update. As you can see, Ms. Cole is on the road to the same conference that Ms. Hall is headed to as well. I do have just a brief update from Ms. Cole to go over really where we're at. So we went through the adoption process last year for our English curriculum, CKLA. And, we got to talking a little bit as a board. We've had some board retreats and, where are we at? Where have we been? Where are we at? So just wanted to kind of hit the high points. I believe you guys have a copy of this as well. But wanted to give you, where we're at. So science adoption happened in 2019. So if you hear the word amplify, STEM scopes, HMH, that's science. That is our science curriculum. Adopted in 2019. Our math, elementary math adopted and completed in 2020. Secondary math adoption completed in 2021. Thank you, board. If I remember correctly, Mr. Cole could help me, maybe members of my senior staff too. I think that was off cycle as well. I think we wanted to make sure that we got the appropriate materials in our kids' hands. We utilize Envision Math by Savis for K-12. We continue to have and implement training. And we've been working with those people. Boy, it's a feverish task, but we're trying to make sure that we get everything in place for our people. One of the challenges, or one of the charges, I should say, from the board is pick something good, train your people, and let them go to work. And we're working very hard to do that. I won't lie. You go to something, or you have somebody come in and they want to sell you the latest, greatest, biggest, baddest thing. I want to compliment Ms. Cole and her team. We've settled in on things and we're going. We want to make sure though that we give this opportunities to work, because that's so frustrating as a teacher when you just constantly just keep getting new stuff rolled at you and you don't ever get a chance to let anything work its way through fruition. Our English language arts was completed in 2021. Both at the elementary and middle school using CKLA, and the high school adopted using My Perspectives. Again, full implementation with our professional development going on for both CKLA and My Perspectives. We're monitoring our schools. Ms. Sanchez gave me a pretty good challenge one night by saying, you will ensure that we are going to use this. And my answer was, yes, ma'am. Okay, so we're continuing to monitor that. Social emotional learning, SEL, was our positive action adopted K-12 in 2022. And if you remember Mr. Clay and his team coming in and talking to us about that. And then now we're up to our social studies. which is being adopted as we speak. So 2022, 2023, released the new standards, completed and released by New Mexico PED. 2021 and 2022, we did as much as we could to get our groups, our teachers, involved with that. If you look down there at there's a bottom paragraph that's fairly telling. Where we're at right now is trying to look to see if our curriculum, that our textbook adoption that we have, can we embed that with something that we already have? Is there a component to CKLA where we could still teach history utilizing the material that we're given via them? Now, that process would be something that we've heard throughout the years of, if somebody has a product that will work within what you've got, why don't we utilize that? And again, maybe taking a little bit off the teachers so that it's not, okay, put your ELA books up and get your social studies books out. Now we're going to teach you social studies. Whereas it could be a smooth transition and maybe duplicate some things without really trying to duplicate them. So I know that Ms. Steinhardt and Ms. Cole will have a little bit more information. We had a survey that went out to the teachers, actually, I think it was yesterday, Monday. And it was asking the question of, okay, your thoughts with this, how could this work for you? So 2023-24 will be our career tech education and health. Now the health is a little interesting. That one, as we're shifting from our graduation requirements from the state requirements that are there now to what we feel like will probably be approved by the legislature. If my memory serves me correctly, I have yet to see health noted anywhere in a graduation requirement. So we're if we were in that process right now where we were fixing to adopt a health book, we would probably hold off on that until we get direction from the legislature. So I stand for questions to the best of my ability.
Okay, so I have a couple. First thing is, this document that we have here, can we link it to the strategic plan?
Sure.
So that it's accessible and as we update it and all that type of stuff?
Like as a hyperlink, you mean?
Yeah, a hyperlink.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. And then going to the social studies standards, if we utilize CKLA, do those align with the standards, or would we be able to do that?
That would be where we're at right now. And I know Ms. Steinhardt, we had a director's meeting today and we were discussing that as far as we have to, number one, we've got to find out if this is something that our staff is in favor of. Is this, we feel comfortable, confident enough so that when we start to go and start to merge them together so that we make sure we hit our state standards. Because ultimately, we cannot do anything. I would not bring before the board something that I felt like would get us in trouble. So if we are not teaching something that would align with state standards, we're not bringing that before the board.
And if we utilize CKLA, our other social studies books, are those just going to be cycled out?
The ones that we currently have? Mm-hmm. I don't know when we adopted them last. I know if to me, if it would follow the same process that it's always followed, just like when you get a new set of social studies books, we would take those books, we would box them, and we would discard of them appropriately. Right.
And I guess that's what I want to make sure, right? So that teachers aren't using the old social studies books and CKLA, and now you're having too much. But I would like what you mentioned, like that's what I was hoping for, the dates of our last adoption. So we know, like, how old are our social studies books? Are they 5 years, 2 years? So if that can be added, that would be great. And then just curious on the hold, because I'm assuming, who would be in charge? Who's in charge of the curriculum adoption? We have a director for elementary and then the director for secondary that's in charge for curriculum adoption?
That would be correct. So when we did the math adoption, I know the last math adoption was secondary, so that was Mr. Bolaños.
And I'm just,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, and I'm just thinking about social studies adoption. Again, if I just don't want us to be stuck to the last minute. If we're able to use CKLA, great, let's do it. If we're not, like, I don't understand why we're holding so much on graduation requirements. The draft is there, we can see it, we have a pretty good understanding of what it might include or not. So I just don't want us to get stuck in the summer and trying to roll something out later on.
No, and one of the things, and Mr. Cole has done I don't want to say he's beat it into me, but he's done a pretty good job of expressing his concern, is to make sure that we're utilizing our dollars efficiently.
Not Mr. Cole.
It's hard to believe, but, and one of the things that we want to make sure that we really take a look at is, we want to buy a bunch of books that just sit on a shelf. And I don't think I'm speaking out of turn. That's happened a couple of times. And I know Ms. Sanchez had expressed that concern when we were working on our English adoption last time. As we move, and it's such a it's such a time-sensitive thing. We start our process of our master schedule building for our secondary schools. So our mid-school and our high school, we have already started the process of looking at what a master schedule looks like. Our kids will soon be given an interest inventory and pre-enrollment, and we'll start that process. We'll start getting course requests. Our counselors will start getting those put in. When I say that to bring up new classes, so back to your comment about the framework that's posted. So, correct. We know that they've given some latitude when it comes to history classes for graduation requirements, whether you take one away, whether you leave. And we've got some pretty big boulders to move as far as our master schedule goes for credits. But when we're coming up with new textbooks, new classes, it's extremely important that we do our diligence and not get in front of our skis and order a bunch of things or order anything that I can't validate that is 100% going to be used.
Great point. So couldn't we instead at least just identify the potential curriculum and then be ready to move forward if and when we purchase?
So I know Mr. Carrasco, Ms. Hall, Dr. Cottrell, and the high school teams have been working with their pathways. So as far as your history classes, those should be fairly standalone. I do think from what I've seen, you're going to veer away a little bit from, okay, your senior year, it's government or econ. There will be some options that could come into this one now where there haven't always been those options. Now, the interest in that, we don't want to go out and purchase 300 units at each school and have 20 kids sign up at one school. That I could not bring that back. That'd be bad for me, to put it mildly. But I do think that they should have the ability to identify based off of working with Mr. Hill and her department as far as the credentials. So, we can't offer something that we can't justify in stars. So our licensure has to follow through that. And if we can pull that off and we have the need, we should be okay.
Thank you.
Okay? Any other questions? All right. Next, we'll have our PSAT presentation by Mr. Bewley.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Luck. Again, short and sweet. We're not going to go through every number that's up here. Thank you, Mr. Bags. I also need to apologize. Flora Bustillos is from Mesa Middle School.
I was going to say.
Sorry, Principal Jamie Watson. And Ms. Capisi, when she was mentioning her principal taking all the work off, that's Jamie Watson also. So, woman of many talents. So we took in October the 8th grade PSAT, all of our 8th graders. We also took the 11th grade PSAT and MSQT. That other part there is the National Merit Scholarship qualifying test. So students put their scores out there for an ability to win scholarships and to be recruited by colleges. So just a real brief, let's see, turn it on. Okay, so we took our PSAT and MSQT October 12th, all 11th graders. These are the students that are going to take the SAT school day in April without essay. That's the one that they're going to, this is their final exam. PSAT 8-9 was for all 8th graders, was October 26th. Coming up is PSAT 10. Now that one's in February 22nd. And we're going to mention about calculators from Gear Up when I finish up here. So just to give you an idea of what we're doing. Okay, here's our College Board benchmarks. This is what the College Board feels and has, these numbers have been very consistent for many years, feels that you should be scoring at each grade level. So,
Mr. Bewley, I apologize to interrupt. Could we go back to that slide just real quick?
Sure.
Okay. If I say the word 1140. 1140. That's what I said. If I say the word,
the same as the hours.
if I say the word 1140, back in the good old days, everybody knew that that was a passing score. So finally, Mr. Bewley, the state of New Mexico, I envision perhaps coming along something like this as dare I say, cut scores. So these are some numbers that board we might want to start kind of trying to put to not necessarily memory, but be a little bit more familiar with when we start talking about graduation requirements and taking our SAT and our PSAT. My apologies, I'm sorry, Ken.
No, you're good. So these are the, what the College Board has considered a good score as you're moving along grade to grade. This is what, right now, the state of New Mexico has established as, not a cut score, but acceptable, college acceptable score. 430 for evidence-based reading and writing and 480 for math. You don't have to get a score to graduate, so let me just make sure there's no connection in there. But we do want our students not to be having to take remedial classes when they get to college, classes that don't count for credit, and you know, you're repeating what you did in high school. So we do want our students to be growing throughout the years as they come along. Okay, and this is our 8th grade. So I'm just gonna go back and forth just a little bit. So this was September of 22, and this is this year's. Okay, so take a look at the mean total score at the end, 738. We had 659 test takers. This year we had 756 was our mean score, and we had 756 total test takers. So we'll go back and forth again. So if you look at our ERW score and our math score, you'll see that they are growing year to year. It's a different group of kids, but we did grow. The math score grew, what was that, 11 points? So that's good. So these are our scores as compared to the district, the state, and the entire nation, 8th grade. Let's see. And this is this year's, and that's last year's. So if you take a look between the mean score between the state and the district, you'll see that I'm gonna go back and forth slowly so you don't get sick, but you see we're closing the gap. So we're closing the gap with the state, and we're closing the gap with the ERW and the math score as well. You can see our math score is just 2 points below the entire state. The entire state doesn't test every 8th grader in the way we do. So I'm very, very pleased with this, doing well. So this is our schools. Everyone's, you know, pretty much within the ballpark. And that was last year, and that's this year. Again, growing quite well. The Berendo Middle School had a very good growth on theirs. And Mountain View Middle School, if you want to look back and forth. Mountain View Middle School, 22-point game in math. So we're happy with what they're doing. All right, and this is the benchmarks. So this is where you have the score, but refer back to that 8th grade benchmarks. You can see how they're doing, how many people have met both benchmarks, no benchmarks, or one benchmark. So again, last year, this year. And this is our benchmark scores for last year, all the different schools, and this year. So I'm not gonna belabor the point, but you saw that we're seeing some significant growth, especially in the math area. And I do have to compliment Mountain View and Miranda for doing very well with their math. So obviously we're on track, and we're looking to see these students as they grow through 10th and 11th and through their SAT school date continue that growth. Okay, now this is our 11th grade. So this was last year. Our mean score is 866. We tested 568 students. This year, our mean score is 842. So that is a drop. So we dropped in our ERW and our math score. But we did increase our number of our participation. So that's an area of concern for the 11th grade. So we get to the point, let's say, okay, we're going through these numbers here, and you're showing us that we have a drop in 11th grade. What are you gonna do about it now? So what we are doing about that, we did bring you before about Khan Academy. If you go to College Board, you're gonna see only one thing up on their website, and that's Khan Academy. And every single student has a free Khan Academy account. And we've linked that, and we have really, thank Mr. Luckin and thank Ms. Leonard for helping us, but we have really bent over backwards to make sure every teacher had an opportunity to train. We did a training initially at the beginning of the year where we had subs, and we brought them in for a half a day. Then we did a follow-up after they were done with the PSAT, saying, okay, now that you got your scores, what are you gonna do with them? How are we gonna grow? So we did an after school, we did a virtual one where they could watch the recording, And then we did one where we picked different times during the day and ran it several times during the day so that all of our teachers could log in there. It happened to be the exact day that the incident occurred over at Roswell High. So I really have to commend my Roswell High teachers because they stuck around till 2:15 and they got on to that to make sure that they could address that for their students. And I just had a email today, one of our math teachers says, how long do we have before the 10th grade test coming up? I said, you got about 7 weeks. So they're aware of it and they are looking to use this Khan Academy to grow their students. So I'm not gonna go through every single one of these. I just wanted to make sure you know what's there. Last year, this year, school by school, cut scores last year, district, state, and total group, district, state, and total group. Each school last year, cut scores, and each school this year. And that is that on that one. Okay, and I did want to mention that in addition to the Khan Academy, Gear Up is going to provide us with TI-84. I don't know if you wanted to say anything, but I'm just going to look at you and nod. Gear Up is going to provide us these TI-84 programmable calculators, which is a very significant dollar amount. And we're going to do training for our math teachers, and that's going to be at the end of this month over at ENMU. They're providing a space over there on the 30th and 31st, so that when we hit the 10th grade math, the students are going to have those calculators and have some experience with them. And they will have them when we get to the SAT school day in April. That test is not going to be on paper. That test is going to be on one of these little tiny computers that we have. So you have a calculator embedded there if you can use it. But now we also have a calculator that you can use in your hand. And I think the two are going to be work together very well. It's very difficult, especially for my sausage fingers, to use the little computers. So I really appreciate having a calculator in hand. So that's our plan as we're working through there. So we have our Khan, we have our calculators from Gear Up, our training through Gear Up, our training through Khan, and now we're gonna roll it out. I stand for questions.
I have one question,
Yes,
hopefully you can answer briefly. And I think it's just more from your perspective, Mr. Bewley, because I'm trying to figure it out. Like, I'm more interested in like the story behind the numbers, right? So how are you, or how are we at the district level taking a deeper dive into it to know, like, Berendo's had some great growth? And I say growth, not proficiency. I understand we're serving different students, so the growth is really important. But what's the story behind that school related to certified teachers, tutoring service? Like, are we taking it deeper there? And I'm really curious, like, are high schools all dropping? And I'm glad we're catching up with this.
It's not just the high school.
But for math
Everybody.
specifically. And
Yep.
like, so I'm seeing growth, except that, and I'm curious, like, why? What's the story behind that number? How deep are we going at the district level to help them understand and see where we're at?
Now, within the PLCs, when they get together to look at that, and it's, you know, we've looked at the fact that our kids that are now 11th graders, when they were taking algebra, they were at home. And PSAT is very heavy on Algebra 1. And we were at home when we did this. So all these kids, when they hit that most important grade level, that was Algebra 1 in 8th and 9th grade, they weren't in the classroom.
And so when we came back to school, we kept moving.
Yeah.
We kept moving forward.
Right.
So, and I remember, and it's been a while now, for our summer school offering, I really want to push now for summer school that we have in-person live certified teachers supporting our students on this. No more online, no more virtual. We have the data, we've proven it doesn't work. So maybe if students had access to the live teach, not saying it would have,
Right.
but it could have helped possibly.
And when we move on, okay, I've already gone through my COVID years, and now I'm taking geometry, but I'm not taking Algebra 1. And then I move on to Algebra 2, financial literacy, whatever other math I'm taking. But again, it leans very heavily on Algebra 1, so we're putting a lot of emphasis on our 8th and 9th grade. And our calculators, our TI-84s, are going to the 8th and 9th grade teacher, the 9th grade teachers. Next year it'll be 9th and 10th. Kind of the same
Yeah.
teachers. But we're really focusing on that all-important grade, so that whatever the legislature decides to do with
Yeah.
our program of study, we're set, that we are prepared for that. And even though we've seen, okay, there's been a drop between last year's group and this year's group, very different in their historical experience. But we still have 4 months to go.
Yeah.
And that was the purpose of our training and getting together to discuss what that was. So our con people, we put the data up there, let's look at it, let's figure out which, standards are giving us the trouble, how can we address it, how can we move people along without having them do things they already know.
Yeah.
Let's focus on just you and what you need. So I think we're trying to do a good job with that, and I'm hoping to bring you something very positive in June. And the PSAT 10th grade, I'll bring that to you in March. So it'll take a while.
And I think my last ask, as you're looking at data and you find those bright spots, please, let's get into their classroom. Let's find what's the best practice. Let's get them in front of other teachers. Let's get them coaching. If I'm a struggling teacher, take me to their classroom. Let's start getting in there.
So as part of our calendar, and as part of our calendar this year, where we do our half-day trainings, it just feeds right into our needs. How can we get everyone?
And without, meaning no disrespect, but not our senior staff leading it, right? Let's get these incredible champion teachers doing great things in the classroom, leading it for our other teachers.
Well, and if I can, Madam President, that was one of we had an individual from Roswell High that actually championed that. Great professional development led by somebody in our building. Thank you. So,
awesome.
that part we're working on. If I may, just real quick to kind of go with your statement a second ago, we have talked about it amongst ourselves that for education purposes, we are about to flip a switch where we're fixing to go back to test scores, where we're going to get back to, I don't want to say pass fail, but we have benchmarks that we're trying to hit. And we're going to be working with a group of kids that have not had a benchmark to go try to hit. We haven't had 1140. We haven't had these marks that we've been trying to get to. And some of it is, I don't want to say empathy or apathy, but we're having to reinforce that, your name is on a piece of paper or on a computer, and just try your hardest. And so I'm not making excuses or anything like that, because again, that's up to us to motivate. But we have run into a little bit of that, you know what, and especially as we get them just a little bit older, it's like, all I got to do is pass my classes. That really, not a big deal. And we try to explain to them, our counselors at the high school level, our principals are, they're running in there and they're like, these are scholarships that you're missing out on, or additional opportunities based off of, you know this material. So still work to be done, but we're very much further ahead than I think where we've been in a while.
And I think you're within the PLCs, if you're out and about, people are going to be looking at the results from IMASA, which tracks from 3rd all the way through 8th. And there is a crosswalk between the PSAT and the IMASA 8th grade, so they get a predictive score. It's not perfect, but it's a predictive score. So once we're done with that on the 20th, I think you're going to see a lot of people sitting down and putting their heads together to find out, okay, what is it that we've done well? What is it we haven't done well? And how are we going to move them further?
Thank you. I think my last statement, just for the community to understand, whenever I'm asking about this, I'm not pushing testing or test scores, or I don't care about students passing. To me, what I care about is what it means. If a student can pass this assessment, it means they have these skills, they have this knowledge, they can do these things. So whenever I'm pushing on this data and all that, it's more than the number, it's more about what they're able to do if they get to that number. So, thank you, Mr. Lev.
I had a question on the growth. So last year to this year, we were, and as it relates to our strategic plan of being in the top 10% of
Yes, sir.
schools in the state, I see we're consistently behind the state in numbers like this. Based on the growth from last year to this year, how far along before we start meeting that goal?
As we've seen, like with the 8th grade, the way they're moving on, we would expect them to be continue to grow. We all grew in the 8th grade. Everybody, the state, the nation, we grew faster. So we closed that gap as we moved along. On the PSAT 11, everyone went down. So, but again, that's consistent across the board. Everyone had that same experience, nationwide. And I think this is the last we're going to see of COVID impacted results. So
That was my next question is, how long before we're back to so our scores are back to pre-pandemic levels?
So I think right now, we're looking at our 8th grade is already back. I mean, they're doing good. I'm hoping, for the same kind of results with our 10th grade. I think we had a better opportunity to get started earlier with them. They've had their scores, for 2 years now, and we have those things in Rewrite Digital so that people can access that and look at it. And the Khan Academy's been there for 2 years, so we should be able to see some really positive growth within our 10th grade group, and we just have to keep it growing, grade by grade.
Fantastic, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
All right, Madam President, members of the board, our last informational item tonight will be our school safety and security update. So I'm going to go on some of this, and I've asked LJ to come in because we did have a couple incidences in the last month that I thought maybe he could help shed some light on. So real quick, just some basic information. Our cell phone boosters have been continuing to be installed. We did see that they performed very well the other day at Roswell High with the ease of communication, and I'm not going to steal Mr. Harold's thunder on that, but we are also getting to the conclusion state with our doorbell cameras for our security. Still waiting on legal as far as potential RFP looking like elementary. I've visited with LJ a little bit and with the team. Would like to maybe discuss that maybe next meeting with the board, maybe perhaps executive session, maybe exploring some other options when it comes to that. So we did have some incidents. I think we're continuing to learn from our incidences. We had one yesterday at Sierra where word had gotten out that something had happened or something was going to happen. Got a hold of the principal. Principal's on the situation. Everything's taken care of. And my first response to her was, you have a robocall ready to go ASAP. I mean, this happened yesterday afternoon, give or take about 2:15, 2:30. So the directive that she was given was have this ready to go as soon as the bell rings and kids start hitting the doors. Ironically, something along the same, I mean, they use the same robocall. I'm not even going to try to hide that. The same robocall went out today at Mountain View. And again, it was just the text message that you were given, that is exactly what happened. A student had made a comment, did not make a threat, and before you know it, the story spins out of control, and now I've got 6 units at Mountain View ready to go because a parent had called. Appreciate the parent calling if they feel like that's what they need to do. But again, we were in constant communication with the building principal. No threat had been made. But again, we're constantly looking to get better as things happen. And I'm going to let Mr. Harold kind of give you a quick update about what happened at Roswell High, because I don't want to say something. Continuing ongoing investigation in that, and then we'll stand for questions.
So Roswell High, I realize lots of frustrations after something like that. I just want to put your mind at ease. It was one of the smoothest operations I've ever been part of. We had 7 different agencies, police agencies assist us on that, multiple officers. Mr. Luck was there, my crisis team was there. We followed it textbook. I mean, the protocol it couldn't go any smoother. I realize there's still frustration out there, and I can explain all the reasons why we did what we did, and that's why I know this went well, because we did. We followed exactly what we're supposed to do. It's one of the toughest things. I get the call, hey, we got this at Roswell High, we need you here. I get there, and to come into a situation like that, you got to have some kind of protocol, and we do. We utilize what's called the 7 critical tasks. Law enforcement's used it for years, and it's just kind of a protocol to make sure we have all the bases covered. So when I arrived, we started going through them, and we had everything we needed in place to be able to handle what we had. You go from a threat level of 1,600 people that are threatened, and by the end of it, we were almost to a 0. We got it down to where we needed to. Again, I know parents get frustrated with the communication. As I step in, one of the biggest things is I have limited resources, and that is the biggest campus we have. It's the most student body we have, and every resource I had was there to look for that threat and make sure we did away with it. I did not have the resources to deal with angry parents showing up at the door. I didn't have the resources to deal with all that type of stuff. We focused on the threat and we got it done as quick as we could. And if you had been there, you would see that it was quite an operation, and everybody helped out, and it went very smooth. So I was very impressed, and it was a great learning environment. Afterwards, I always put out an after-action review. I let the teachers know, hey, this is why we did what we did. This is what we can improve on, and this is what we did great. Several of the things, just to put your mind at ease, I've talked to you guys before about how the stars aligned. The stars aligned on that day. As bad as that sounds, you look at most school shootings, about 80 to 85%, a second person knew something was about to happen and said nothing. We had information it was about to happen. The other thing is there's never been a successful school shooting when you had a school resource officer in the building. We have one, and she was in that building at that time. Everything just lined up, and then it went smooth. As soon as we arrived, we handled it. I'm super impressed with everybody who was involved. So just put your mind at ease. It went good. I promise you that. As far as security, we're right in the middle of our drills right now.
Sorry. Before you move on, can we ask questions?
Yeah, oh yes, please.
For me, can you help our parents understand whenever we first learn about a weapon on campus, why do we not call them immediately? Why is that not part of the protocol?
And a lot of it comes down to just the fact of the limited resources. So when you look at the 7 critical tasks, the first thing when I show up is I establish communication with my teachers and all my law enforcement. That is all cell-based. And when I get parents there and they start stressing our cell towers, that is a resource I can't lose. So that's one of the issues. As far as when you start looking at it, we identify the danger area. When I have an unknown threat, the danger is the entire school. I have 1,600 people who are at threat. When we put them into a lockdown, we isolate that threat to about 20 in each classroom. We established an inner perimeter. I made sure I had armed guards in every hall, just feet away from every room. So now we've got our threat level down to about 5. I will have a quick response force there within seconds if something breaks off. So very quickly, we set all that up, and then it's really hard to break that. And when I start contacting parents and they show up, and it's sad to hear, but you can get, right after it was over with, Pilar Carrasco, the principal there, had got a call. And it was a parent who was irate. Every other word was the F-bomb. She was threatening him. And if she shows up in that situation, I literally have to pull my resources from what they're doing, looking for that threat, send them to the front door and be able to deal with this individual. And I had just enough resources to handle this big a school. So I realized the frustration. At that time, there was nothing a parent can do to help us. There really isn't. We are literally working it step by step. And as long as I keep everybody focused on the job at task, which is to find that threat, then we're doing what we've got to do. And as soon as we figured it out and we figured we had nothing, all the communication opened up and we did good with that. But, and I'm a parent, I would be frustrated too. When they drop those kids off with us in the morning, they trust us with those kids. And they could on that day. And I promise you that. I know that's a hard thing to do because I am all about control. I want control of everything. And those parents just had to trust us to know that we were doing exactly what we were supposed to do.
Awesome.
So.
And one last thing I want to point out, Mr. Luck, that you helped us understand, but I really wish the community could understand is we're not going to do a robocall during the day unless it's needed, unless there's an emergency. So even at our other middle schools, a lot of times parents get really upset because they're not notified during the school day about just maybe a verbal threat or something that happens. But we really want to save those robocalls. So if there's a big danger or something big, then you hear from us during the day.
Right, we don't want to cry wolf too many times. I mean, that's it. And we do. Just today, dealing with all the threats that we deal with. We live in a communication age, and it's just all the time there is a threat. And we have to take them as credible and be able to work through them and identify what kind of threat level we have. So we're dealing with it all the time. And if we sent robocalls out every single time, yeah, we would just inundate the parents. Parents are already stressed. There was a study a couple of years ago, 89% of the parents they have anxiety about sending their kids just because of the headlines they see. And then if we add to that, then yeah, you're causing problems. But.
Thank you.
I just want to ask you, how do you handle the students and their cell phones in the classroom?
So, and that is tough too. So again, that is one of our biggest resources. Everything is cell-based today. When I have 7 different agencies come in, We don't have a single radio communication. So as they come in, I'm literally with my cell phone, and I'll go to each one, I program the number in, and I put out mass text. And so any information I get, I send, and it hits all those officers. So as much as we can limit the cell phone use within the building, we try. Some of the teachers I know separated the students from the phones at some point, and that does help us. Again, we don't want that. We don't want poor information. First thing I do when I get there is I establish that communication, and we set Navigate 360 up. And now I have a line of communication with every teacher, and I'm telling them exactly what we want. The one thing in this situation that we had, we didn't want to get on the PA. If I do have a threat in that classroom, and now they're hearing over the PA that we're coming to their room, that could set it off. So the Navigate allowed us to secure communication, to be able to talk, and I just have to protect that cell tower, and that's what we do. And so a lot of cell coverage was limited, but it was focused in on what we needed it to do.
And a lot of times people take that for granted because people might be online hearing that like, oh, we're, a whole bunch of people on their phones at once interfering with the tower. I went to that concert that they had over there at DeBrenham, and I could tell you it said that I had 4G, like complete full bars, but I couldn't even get a Facebook page to load just because how many people were on their phones at the same time. And is it still consequences, or like prohibited to have cell phones as a student in their classroom?
I'm going to say no, because everybody's got one.
Okay.
And
I was just asking out because it was when I was there, but
yeah.
we still had like the little Nokias,
No, and that's I think Mr. Harrell brings up a good point, but also to some of that point, literally the operation went north to south through the building. And when you encourage people, which rightfully so, to follow, so they started in the halls and they went north to south. So as this group's, they went through the halls, and you're hoping to have, it's funny, we've talked about this, were we upset that we didn't find something else, or were we happy that we didn't find something else? The operation went so well, but you also didn't want to tip somebody off. And so when you're looking for a way to get information out that half the kids have it, that was another one that we're like, okay, back to Mr. French's question, after Berendo, I think that changed a lot of things. That, as a parent, I want to be able to get a hold of you whenever I need to get a hold of you. Fair enough, okay? But one of the things that we've emphasized too is, if you're in a room behind a locked door with a teacher that has been trained, you're safer than you could be anywhere else in that building. So that's, there's a huge trust. I got it. I have two myself. And I don't take for granted anybody else's kiddos. As I'm walking Roswell High, I see kids that I have coached or I grew up with their parents. It's personal to us. And I think that was one of the things that you could see on everybody's face that day. This was personal. And it was done. I don't know how it could have been done any faster. Ms. Kristen Sayers was on a computer the entire time. She's answering Navigate questions. Literally, you try to talk to her, and she's like, not now. And she's communicating with the teachers. I know Ms. Deanna Ruiz was doing email, where those teachers that were having some Navigate issues, she was communicating with them via email. So, I did feel like it was appropriate to come in and brief on that. I try to make sure that we were updating you as much as possible as things are coming out. The one thing that they've emphasized was, a lot of is address the problem, deal with the problem, then notify. And so, that's what we're going to make sure that we try to do. I think, communicating back here with central office, we had the press releases ready to go. Like I said, we're trying to learn. And I think we did that about as well as it could be done. So could he address the drills real quick? All right, awesome.
Drills, we're in our spring drills, so again, by state mandate, we got to do 4 drills this semester. 2 fire, again, we're doing a security one, lockdown drill, and then we're also doing what's called a theoretical drill, and you're more than welcome to come attend any of that. That is, it's kind of a class. I go through, teach some teachers a few things, and then we look at a video, and then we discuss it. We say, what would you do in this situation? How would you handle it? It allows me one-on-one with the teachers. State says that we don't have to have students at every drill, so we don't. That is an adult-only drill, and it has become, we've been doing it about the last 4 years, and it's become one of my favorite drills because we can answer all the what-ifs and we can get all that out, and the teachers seem to get quite a bit out of it. So Those are the 4 drills we're running. Everything's going smooth. Navigate's up and running. The cell boosters, Roswell High, it was phenomenal. I never lost service throughout that whole building. And we've been waiting on these things for a while, and they're paying off. They do phenomenal. So I think we're almost to the end of that. And just having that communication is just huge. I just can't tell you how important that is to us. So drills are going good. Everything else seems to be good. We hit it hard. I mean, as soon as we got back from Christmas, it's been fast and furious, and there's been something every day. I didn't even get to do a single piece of the paperwork I needed to. I went to 5 schools today on 5 different types of calls, from irate parents wanting to beat up principals to the threats at Mountain View to all that. So we're working hard. I promise you that. So,
All 6 days that we've been back.
yeah, it's been fast. Any other questions?
Where are we at as far as the cameras?
As far as
The cameras for all of the schools?
So we got all the front door cameras in with the intrusion glass, so we have that new layer of protection. As far as getting all schools cameras, I would have to put that back
Talking
over
about
here.
surveillance cameras?
Yes.
George? If you could get with me specifically about if there's a particular building, I'm not aware of any type of a large universal grant that says that every building has X number of cameras. But if we've got something that we've got discrepancies, we can make sure we fix it. And I'll be blunt, one of the primary buildings that we do need to camera up is sitting right here.
This building right here.
And not because I feel like the adults in this building deserve it more than kids, but we need to protect our staff in here as well. Now, if we have limited camera availability in some of our schools, we need to address it. And so that's why I'm not, I say curious, but I think we can address each of those as they come up. So
LJ, is that part of your audit that you do though, like for your recommendations? Like here's 2 schools that I think need it, or like, do you do audits of the schools to maybe help identify what's missing?
So we do. I do threat assessments on an annual basis. We look at the vulnerabilities of the building and then identify what's there. So if you ever want to look at those, I have those, and you're more than welcome to take a look at them.
Be honest, what would have helped you? I mean, you said you're kind of, I guess, a little short on people. You know, I mean, you had 7 different types of officers there and stuff like that. I understand that, but what do you might need from us that we can help you, or what could we fund? What can we get together? What could we do to where if something like this happens at Roswell High and something else happens at, God forbid, any other school, now you're divided up into 2, and now we don't have the amount of people that we need in order to successfully go through steps 1 through 7. You know what I'm saying? So is there anything you need from us that we can put together and hopefully maybe even expedite faster if it's already in the...
You got money? I'll take money. We live in a limited city. I mean, we have limited resources as far as law enforcement, our schools, and this. So if it ever went to that big, I truly believe, and I've been in situations when I was with the police department that they will start calling officers out of their bed. I mean, they work midnights, they'll be coming back out. So we will have that. It may take a little bit of time, but as far as acquiring the officers, there was at one point, I believe I counted 22 officers. And that's a lot that we had there. So as far as that, it just comes down to me requesting it, and I'm just amazed with what we have. They start sending them out of the woodwork, and we get lots of people. So we had all the administrators going. So all the search teams were administrators, one of our local security guards, and then multiple officers there to protect. So we had everybody tied up. I run about a 9-person crisis team, so anytime there's something there, I call my crisis team and they start flowing in. Kristen is one of them, and they hop on the computer sending out information. Hey, I need you to do this. Hey, I need you to call these folks, and they're just right there all the time. So if it got bigger than this, it's just we're going to have to start pulling people out of bed or whatever and start getting them there. But it's not something we could have just standing ready for this.
I would just real quick like to publicly thank the law enforcement that were there, because we get done with this and we're kind of having a quick debrief in the lobby, and they stayed and assisted us for release. And that was one of the key factors as to why we chose to release early, is because they were there. And if we had waited or held or did something like that, we would have had to have called maybe some of them back or not. But I think give or take probably about 25, 30 extra minutes that they stuck around, and not a one of them was, visibly not willing to do it. They were all like, "You bet,"
Well,
and
parents too, they know.
Yep. Yeah, we do sometimes focus a lot on some negative. My general consensus from the Roswell High staff, parents, students, et cetera, was extremely positive. Most of the parents that I spoke to, thank you. And you're welcome. I'm glad everything's good. Have a great day. And just kept right on moving through. The employers of our town, I mean, it sounds kind of corny, but thank you for letting those people go get their kids. Because you didn't, that helps. I see you, everything was good, we go home, we reset, start a new day. So, if there aren't any other
I
questions?
was just gonna ask, the administrators in that building are just the ones from that building? You're not having central office administrators running out there?
I mean, my crisis team comes from the central office, so
Oh,
you
okay.
have those, but no, it was mainly just Roswell High staff. We looked at, I almost started bringing security guards from other schools to help us out, but I hate to pull them and then they have an issue, so we were able to handle it with what we had. Like I say, it was time consuming, and that's the biggest thing. I would have liked it to speed up a little bit, but way we did it and how methodical it was, it's just gonna take time with the school that big. Any other questions?
Thank you, sir. Madam President, that concludes our school safety and security update.
Alrighty, we're gonna move on to approval of the minutes.
Madam President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the minutes of the December 9th, 2022 board retreat and the December 13th, 2022 regular board meeting.
Do we have any modifications to the minutes? If not, may I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. May I get a second? Second. Okay, I have a motion made by Mr. French and a second made by Ms. Sanchez. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it, and the motion carried. Okay, the consent agenda is now up.
Madam President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the consent agenda to include approval of December bills, authorized January 2023 bills, and approved January 2023 bars.
Do we have any discussion on these items? All right, may I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
May I get a
Second.
Thank you. A motion by Mr. Edwards and a second by Mr. Cheney. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The ayes have it, and the motion carried. We have our action items next.
Yes, ma'am. Madam President, members of the board, the first item up for tonight is the Roswell High School avid trip to Texas Tech. So I'm going to kind of give a little background. This trip's already been approved. It has come before the board already. They didn't get to go on the date that they had set, and they have rescheduled, and it's still out of state. So we didn't want to, veer out of bounds. But that's also why no one is here from Roswell High tonight, is because they've given their speech, and they did get your approval on the last one. But it is still your responsibility.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. Thank you. Motion by Mr. Edwards and a second by Ms. Sanchez. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The ayes have it, and the motion carried. Next, we have Title III Immigrant Funding Application.
Madam President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the Title III Immigrant Funding Application 2022-2023.
Thank you. Any questions on this item?
No, ma'am. Do we send this application in every year, right? Or, right, correct? Okay.
If my memory serves me correctly, Ms. Nieto Walker has addressed some of these issues in past board meetings, Mr. Bewley?
So due to the increase in our numbers of immigrant students, we had an opportunity to apply for additional funding, and this is going to be used for, as soon as the state finishes their part, sorry, they're running behind. As soon as they finish their part, we can put it into place. But Ms. Nieto Walker is looking for a summer program that's going to run from just after we get out for 2 weeks, in-person learning and engaging, authentic experiences for our students. So this will be very key to that. And we're trying to avoid the overlap of summer school and the immigrant program. And Ms. Cole had texted us, and she appreciated the comment about the in-person summer school. She said, "We're working on that," but I read it after we were done there. But I didn't want to comment on that. But this one's for our immigrant students, and then we round them up and get them over here and make sure they get to take advantage of it.
Good.
We offer we offer it for them. Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's available. We round them up.
In a nice way.
In a nice way.
Mr. Bewley, do you know if the district has ever received that technical assistant focus monitoring visit?
Yes, we have. We've done some. It depends on how much staff they have there, because we've done some where we do what do they call it? It's not a bench warrant. It's a virtual visit where they just look at things on the computer. You submit it to them, and they don't actually come out. But they have actually come out here. Kersey Lane and who was it? It wasn't Isela Pelayo, I think, but they came down here and did a visit and went through the folders and the program and school to school. So yeah, we've had those technical visits.
Alrighty, may I get a motion to approve?
So moved. Oh,
May I get a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, a motion by Ms. Sanchez and a second by Mr. French. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The ayes have it, and the motion carried. Next, we have proposed 2023-2024 RISD calendar, first reading.
Madam President, members of the board, you guys all have a copy of what, I don't want to say was voted on, but based off of district feedback, this was a combination of what we came up with. You can see some key dates that will start on a Tuesday. That was one of the votes that we did get back from our staff, with staff development taking place on August the 3rd, the 4th, and a building work day on August the 7th. So you'll have a weekend, you'll have a full day, and then we'll have our kiddos coming back in on the 8th. It does give us the full 2 weeks at Christmas and a full week at Thanksgiving, then a full spring break weeks. And then we'll end up, just like we always do, on May the 24th, and we'll have our graduations. We did have 2 of our half-day professional development days. We're going to try something different this next year. We did get some feedback from our teachers. I'm excited and nervous all at the same time. It is a Wednesday professional development full day. That day does happen to be the day after Halloween. So we've had some comments over the years with some veteran teachers of, the day after Halloween ought to be a holiday. And, I said, well, we do need a PD somewhere out there. So we thought, we'd give it a shot and see kind of how it works. We do need to train our staff, and I don't have any doubt that our staff is there. Yes, it is a little different, but it would give families an opportunity to knowing it ahead of time. It's not something we're going to spring on them at the last minute. I do realize that childcare is something that they'll have to come up with. Wednesday is a late out anyway, an early release for our elementaries anyway. So that would be one of the big tries that we're going to look at for this one right here. So it is the first reading. We do have some dates. We wanted to make sure that we got our fiscal year. And Chad, I don't know quite how to word this, but it's basically like we have to have everything by this date so that we can make sure that we fund our work agreements, all of our incoming paperwork, so that everybody knows, and it's not a surprise to somebody if they get pushback on your work agreement wasn't turned in time, or your POs didn't get taken care of. We wanted to put that out well in advance so that everybody knows. So if you're dealing with summer school, or if you're a principal and you're working on a PO kind of late, there's not any reason for that I don't want to stress the business office out. And then the other one is we've got some dates that we're going to put on here for our cafeteria staff, correct? That these are the dates that we will not have food services, and it's the summer primarily, is to our big dates there, so that our coaches or our sponsors know ahead of time, if you're going to do something, you're going to not have a district cafeteria to support you on that. But I do stand for questions and suggestions, as again, this is a first reading.
I have just one thing for consideration. So between January and February, we just have 1 week that looks like a full week. I just want to throw out the suggestion of moving that Friday, February 16th PD day possibly to April, just so during that time we have more full weeks. And looking at the month of April, there isn't anything. I do understand, Mr. B, we have a lot of testing possibly, but if somewhere within there, it might fit and it might not, but just for consideration on that one date.
Okay, so one of our thoughts with that, and yes, absolutely, we can sure take a look at it. Ms. Cole and I were going over that, and one of the thoughts there would be is that by that time in February, that you would have your MOY data all back, and that our buildings could actually take some time and do some a little deep dive into your goals after your MOY comes in, and that you could have your push going up into your spring break and then on into your April testing. But no, that we noticed the April being fairly glaring as well. But then we also talked a little bit about kind of a reset as far as a district that says April, that's what we do. And we're trying to make sure that we get them back and get them going. We had toyed with the idea of spring break, perhaps somewhere in April, like April 1st. Again, not knowing officially the testing calendar, we wanted to make sure that we gave our teachers enough time to get the kids back and to get them back acclimated so that they, whatever the measuring stick is that they're going to use, that we have enough time to get them back ready to go for that. So, but I'll sure touch base, and that, like I said, that's not a drop dead date. I mean, we're going to have the teachers there for half a day anyway, but I will double check to see the thoughts there.
Because it could be a PLC before state assessments.
Could be. Well, and it could occur somewhere, if, your hope is if you kind of take a chance and say, well, we want to do it April the 12th. And then we go out on a limb, and then next thing you know, April the 8th, 9th opens the window, and I don't want to have everything rocking and rolling, and then you take it half a day, and now we've got a break in the testing cycle. But I think if we could put it maybe there at the 1st, I don't think that'd be an issue. So. Any other questions on the calendar?
This is our first reading, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And again, we're looking at 11:40. I don't know why I didn't remember that. A while ago, that number's never going to leave. That is what the state has put out as far as your hours. So if I've done the math correctly, and I've had several people help me make sure that we did the math correctly, we're going to be, give or take, about 6.5 days worth of education over what the state has used as a benchmark. So we have a little bit of room for some weather delays, or you never know what could come up, but we felt pretty confident that we're trying to do our diligence and make sure that we adhere to state guidance, which is, we've got some gaps. And to use Dr. Steinhaus's term, if we're going to move the needle, you've got to put in a little bit more. But at the same time, I don't think that we're going to tax out our crew too bad here with this one. Okay, thank you.
Next, we have the MOA for Realty Property Exchange and Existing Facility Lease Agreement.
Yes, ma'am. Madam President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the MOA for Real Property Exchange and Existing Facilities Lease Agreement, and I'm going to let Mr. Cole go on this one.
Thank you, Mr. Luck. Madam Board President Morales, Superintendent Luck, members of the board, you have in front of you for your consideration and potential authorization a memorandum of agreement between the Roswell Independent School District, New Mexico General Services Department, and the New Mexico Board of Finance, which contemplates the agreement of real property exchange and existing lease of facility. So there are a few minor corrections to this item, and I'm about to hand you something out. I apologize in advance. I learned this late yesterday afternoon. But we've kind of bounced this ball back and forth between ourselves and New Mexico GSD several times. So to point out what those corrections are, New Mexico GSD has several locations. They wanted us to refer to the Facilities Management Division, which is located at 2542 Cerrillos Road in Santa Fe. So we made that correction. The other correction is the signature line for New Mexico Department of Finance's Board of Finance to list its current director as opposed to its board president. That came from New Mexico GSD as well. So with that, here are those.
Thank you, Mr. Court.
Thank you, sir. So as you know, the MOA before you considers the following items in keeping with the laws and regulations of the state of New Mexico. This is a direct swap with no out-of-pocket cost to either party to transfer ownership of the Roswell Independent School District's existing Nancy Lopez Elementary School building and land site located at 1208 East Bland Street, which is currently limited to 5.06 acres in exchange for New Mexico GSD-owned land consisting of 7.78 acres that is located at 1600 East Tilden Street, directly north and adjacent to what will be our new Mesa Middle School, which is, if you've driven by, and I would highly encourage that you do, is rapidly moving through its construction as we speak. By direct exchange, it would not only ensure that our school district saves the cost of purchasing this land, but it saves our school district the cost of abating and demolishing the old school site. So that's considerable. By this agreement, it would be accomplished by the two parties deeding over their respective land sites. And that would happen as soon if approvals were made and the agreement was entered into by both parties. So the next step after that would be to deed the two properties over. So our old Nancy Lopez site would become the property of GSD, and their land site would become our property in exchange, and we would do a transfer that way. The reason for the deeding so quickly on the front end is that we need to start consider starting Nancy Lopez Elementary School construction pretty quickly. As you know, and I think we're looking at 5 months here. We're going to wrap up design of Nancy Lopez with the school design committee, and that's going to be June 30th. So that's right around the corner, 5 months from now. Yes, ma'am.
Will the design be impacted by the location? Like,
Yes, the design will be impacted by the
so next
location.
month we'll want on the agenda for us to vote for the location so that we can get that finalized.
I think that would be great. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Yeah. And number two, upon transfer of ownership of the existing Nancy Lopez Elementary School to New Mexico GSD, the annual RISD lease of that facility from New Mexico GSD would cost the school district not more than $100 per year. We're looking at essentially 2 years' time, 24 months. That's in the agreement, which is a conservative estimate of the time needed to complete construction of the new Nancy Lopez at its new facility site. So this would allow for the exchange of properties on the front end that we just talked about in order to start the new school's construction, while also meeting the legal requirements of the state's anti-donation clause, which is written into the Constitution of the state of New Mexico. It's quid pro quo, which just simply means something of reasonable value, which would be the lease of GFD's facility, the old Nancy Lopez school site, in exchange for something else of value, which would be the $100 per year over 2 years' time for ongoing construction to complete itself. And let's say something happened. I don't even want to, we'll say pandemic, knock on wood, or who knows? Anything could happen. But let's say
That's not
something.
happening.
Yeah, that's not happening. That's not happening. But let's say something did happen. It happens. Actually, it happens to school districts throughout the state that undergo school construction projects. Roswell's been fortunate. We've never had that happen, where we really had a substantial delay or couldn't complete a project. But let's say it happened. We need something in the language that gives us a way out, and they need something in the language that gives them a way out as well. So that, again, is that 20, it's a creative way to make the exchange, cover all the laws, meet the anti-donation clause, be reasonable, all of those things. But it also gives us a trigger mechanism if 2 years down the road, a lot of things have changed, maybe at the state level, whatever. We're both kind of locked into an agreement on intent and principles. And so if we get 24 months down the road and we can't complete construction, there's also a clause in there where we can agree to extend that 24-month period. Say it's just backed up to 30 months. Okay. And it says it specifically in the agreement that we can do that in writing with each other, and that's part of the intent of the agreement as well. So it gives us some ways to mechanisms. At the end of the 24 months, we deed the properties back to each other, and that's spelled out in the agreement. And if we needed to extend, we could extend it in writing, which is the way it should be anyway. Upon completion of the new Nancy Lopez Elementary School's construction, which will include the addition of its new school furniture. Our old building's furniture, currently at the existing school site, will remain and be left at the old school site at the end of the 24-month period. Now, that saves us a couple of things. One, it saves our school district the cost of moving, transporting, storing, and then auctioning that old furniture, which we have to do every time we build a new building, and there are costs associated with it.
I'm
Yes,
assuming
ma'am.
that doesn't include technology, right? Like Promethean board, does it include, what is furniture? Promethean boards, computers, like,
Yes, so
we'll figure that out.
so furniture is like desks,
Okay. Teacher desk,
file
student's
cabinets,
desk, yeah.
chairs, student desks, those types of
Is that
things. Our
defined?
technology, it hasn't been broken out specifically, but we could, because there'll be a follow-up agreement to this. But this just kind of lays out the terms of what we're trying to do here with each other. But as understood in the conversations, the technology or Promethean boards would come with us, unless like it's something that's mounted to a wall and is 15 years old. It's really not, but really, the bottom line is what they're trying to get to, what the state is looking at is, and I haven't touched on this part yet, but they want to get as real as they can get an active shooter training site for all of New Mexico law enforcement. This would be through the state police department, and they run different programs. They're trying to get some good training out there in a realistic environment. And this would be the first of its kind facility in New Mexico. And I haven't heard of anywhere else in the country, to be honest with you. And it would be in a real school building. And so it gives them access to do soft entries and work their people through, so we don't see the things that we saw at UVA, Texas. And, you get some practice and some repetition, some muscle memory, some communication skills, all of those things. You can work out all of those problems before you ever get there. And it's a great organization, New Mexico State Police Department. And I've met the chief and talked to him, and super impressed. And if you've been out to our elementary school sites, our local New Mexico State Police officers are going out to those school sites that will let them and giving the kids stickers and talking to them, and that's happened weekly. So I'm just super impressed with them, and I know they're a top flight organization. As far as I've known, they always have been. And so I think it's great for them to have that lead. The other thing it does, it's going to bring law enforcement into Roswell, and they're going to be staying in hotels in Roswell, and that's gross receipts tax, that's lodger's tax, all of those things. So you look at this thing across the board, and not only is the Roswell Public independent school district gaining this. Our teachers are gaining this. Our students are gaining this. Our families are gaining this. We talked about the pickup and drop off, the access to student-based healthcare services free of charge to family, staff, and students. And just, it's a feeder school in and the adjacent, all of those things. If you look across the board, this really benefits everybody from this community up to the state level, and everybody wins on this thing in a big way. And I think, what's more important is the safety and security of our kids, and statewide kids are going to benefit from this for years to come. And so it's just awesome to put together something like that where everybody wins in a big way. So, Mr. Luck and I have talked at length about all the community partners that have been collaborated with to get us here. And of course, we've talked about Will Cavan, former county commissioner, Mac Rogers, former school district construction manager, now director of public services at the county, reaching out to John Garcia, cabinet secretary of GSD, and then the big one, Tim Jennings, coming in and encouraging us to all work together and making some contacts. And I'll just let you know, he's made some contacts as recently as last week. So everybody's been on it, pushing for the same goal. And in goodwill, trust, and good faith, and it doesn't get any better than that. So anyway, any questions?
We're just knocking on wood over here. Thank you. May I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
May I get a second?
Second.
Take a motion by Mr. Edwards and a second by Mr. Cheney. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it, and the motion carried. Next, we have the next generation application.
Yes, ma'am. Madam President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the Next Generation 1 application. And I believe, Dr. Creel, are you here to help with some of that one?
I have a little bit, not
Okay. For questions that you may have.
I have just two quick questions, and Dr. Carrillo Lucero, I'm not sure if you can answer these or not, but on the first page, the title page, the cost fund source, the $8,028, what is that?
Okay, so, good evening, Board President Morales, Superintendent-elect, members of the board. Ms. Morales, I will give you the best answer that I can with this not being, this is obvious, of course, under Mrs. Leonard, and she did contact me and gave me some information, so I will give it to you to the best of my ability. If I can't answer it correctly, I get with Mr. Luck to get with Mrs. Leonard. My understanding is this is a carryover from a previous grant, and that this was left over and carried over.
That 8,000?
Yes, and that this money is going to be used to fund materials and equipment for ag at Goddard High School.
Okay, thank you. And then so this entire application, it's really for the CTE programs at all of our high schools, and just gives more information about that?
Yes.
So my question, I just want to make sure, was our director of CTE given the opportunity to work on this grant? I'm curious as to why Ms. Leonard was the one leading this work.
For the most part, I think everything dealing with money, a lot of the money type things, she did work closely with Mr. Bolaños on this. But since all the federal grants and all grants really do run through her office, she was the one to go ahead and move forward with that. Is that correct, Mr. Luck?
Yes, that's correct. I did look at that because I did get that question earlier in the day, and that was basically what, and I don't want to say what we came up with, but I know that's more her wheelhouse as far as communicating with the state and the federal levels for our grants, and then making sure that we hit our timelines, and I think she has a little bit more experience when it comes to getting the things in the grants that we need.
I think this is me just doing, and thank you, Dr. Godinez. I think this is me doing my part in alignment with the strategic plan and really holding us responsible and as a district responsible. And if the director of CTE is really our expert in this field, at the least, I would expect that his name would have been a part of this application.
Okay.
Because again, I want to create systems where this works, taking away the name and things like that. So,
Yes, ma'am.
it was a great application. She did a wonderful job, but whenever we're looking at the systems and how we're doing things and working together, I would expect that we have our expert really assisting on this.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Anything else, board? Okay. With that, may I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. A motion made by Mr. French and a second made by Mr. Cheney. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The ayes have it, and the motion is carried. Okay, next we have the new language for the RISD Board of Education Public Forum Ground Rules.
Madam President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the new language for the RISD Board of Education Public Forum Ground Rules.
Okay, board, so this is just the statement that I read whenever somebody signs up to speak to the board. Normally, it's that really long thing that the president will read. So what I've done, and it's in board book, but I just kind of shortened it down, and I can read it briefly to you, but I'm just asking the board that we consider adopting this. I want to make sure that we capture all of the expectations, but that we don't have to go over too much. But it's please self-monitor and observe the 3-minute time limit. You may be given a 30-second warning if your time is almost up. If needed to accommodate a large number of speakers and maintain a reasonable meeting schedule, the time limit for all speakers may be shortened. You may speak on any topic, whether it is on the agenda or not, but are expected to do so in a respectful manner. Please do not discuss any specific student who is not your own, and do not discuss confidential personnel matters, including those of a disciplinary nature regarding any RISD employee. This should be discussed with the superintendent or the employee supervisor. Please be advised that the board cannot take action on items that are not on the agenda, and for the safety of yourself and others, signs and placards are not permitted in the boardroom.
So my question is, what was removed? Where's the,
Ooh, you want me to do that?
like the side by side?
Oh, you all don't have access to that, do you? So if you,
So do we have anything in there that we can add, like,
so this is ours, we can,
yeah, like individuals who do not follow these ground rules, something similar to that?
I'm sorry, can you repeat?
Can we put something in there where we can say individuals who do not follow these ground rules or who create an unsafe or intimidating environment to be asked to leave or be removed?
We can do that at any time.
We can,
We can do that at any time.
Yep.
So,
Anyone who's being uncivil with us, we can
but we can't
eject
put
them.
it in there, is what I'm saying. No, we don't need to.
I don't know if it quite goes in there. I remember at our training with Tony last month, though, he really advised against us not trying to dismiss anybody from a public meeting.
Okay.
And there's other strategies like taking a break, reminding of the
Okay.
rules, things like that. So we
Gotcha.
never want to get to that point. But if you all want to do a comparison, we can bring it back next month. All because I don't have the full, what I cut out. I just know it's a lot, and I don't think all of it was very as necessary. So,
No, I agree, that's fine.
are you all okay with that?
I am okay with it.
Okay, so with that, may I get a motion to approve? Thank you. May I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Alrighty, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it and the motion carried. Okay, next we have the 2022-2023 RISD Board Committee selections.
Yes, ma'am. Madam President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the 2022-2023 RISD Board Committee selections, and I will defer again to you.
Thank you. Alrighty, board, so we have 3 committees every year, and we are allowed to have up to 2 members sit on the committee. If we would like a larger group, we can have a larger group. There are some other things we'd have to do as far as giving public notice and not making any type of decisions within those meetings. But normally we have 2. We have our Finance Committee, which is a little bit more active in certain months, in partnership with Mr. Cole. We have the Policy Committee in partnership with Ms. Trujillo, and normally this meets more on a regular basis. Hopefully this year, it'll either be monthly, bi-monthly, something like that. And then we have an Audit Committee who is also very specific, more in a shorter amount of time with Mr. Cole. Okay. Any opinions as far as committees that you all would like to serve on? And then at the end, we can officially vote.
I just would like to remain on the policy committee. You want to say that?
Yeah.
I think the committees, the way we've got them set up right now, I think it's worked out pretty good because, I don't want to be on the policy committee. I'd just rather stay on audit and finance, and I like the people that are on that committee, those committees with me, so.
And it's also a chance to give others, if it's been too much for your schedule, to say, hey, I can't do it, or if you're interested in learning. So right now I have James for finance and audit, Hilda for policy. You're all set?
I thought I'll still be on the policy and the audit.
Okay.
I agree to remain on the finance, or was it, it's not finance, it's,
Yeah, finance.
yes.
Alrighty, so I have down for finance committee, Mr. Edwards and Mr. Cheney. For policy committee, Ms. Sanchez, Mr. French. For audit committee, Mr. Edwards and Mr. French. Does that sound right? Alrighty, with that, may I get a motion to approve the committees as stated?
So move.
Second.
I have a motion made by Mr. Edwards and a second made by Mr. Cheney. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The ayes have it and the motion carried. Alrighty, reports. Mr. Luck?
Yes, ma'am. Madam President, members of the board, 6 days back in business. Seems like just last week we were coming back from Christmas break and had a lot happen. So we've been really busy. I'm super proud of the work that our staff is doing right now. Again, we're starting to make progress, and you've seen that with some of the data that we've shared tonight. Some quick updates for you. I have been nominated to the State Early Childhood Education and Care Advisory Council, and I have a copy of the letter that I received that's in there. So I met with Sally Green, who is our early childhood leader here in Roswell. Talked at length with her about the opportunity that we have as a district. Look forward to bringing back information from that committee appointment, and I'm excited. I'm very, very happy to be a part of that, and look forward to the work that we're going to do with the state of New Mexico. The winter sports, full in swing. Right now we've got a full gym at Goddard High School. Not getting scores. I don't want scores right now. Not watching the game. It's tough. But we've got a full house over there, so I've got people updating me that we got a good game going on, and look forward to continuation of that. We've got wrestling. We've got our orchestras and our choruses and our bands that have shifted from fall competitions into winter activities with concerts and competitions that they're going through. Men's and women's wrestling. I mean, there's always something to do here in our town when it comes to this. Our spring sports practice, their first official day is January the 30th. That's right around the corner. And so if you have, you haven't played any other sport and you're looking to do that, so please make sure that you have your physicals. Sometimes we forget that, because in the fall, that's a big push that everybody get their physicals. And if 8th graders are going to try out for sports teams in the spring, be it that golf, tennis, baseball, they need to make sure that they take care of their participation forms at their neighborhood high schools. They're going to be in the 8th grade. They have to participate at their neighborhood schools.
So are there exemptions to that, or exceptions?
There have been some exceptions. Those also have to go through the NMA. So there's, if your parent is a coach, something like that. So January 16th, MLK Community Learning Day. No students, staff on campus. Again, we're asking our teachers and our buildings to come up with creative ideas to help celebrate the day, kind of like we did with the Fair Day. There's lots going on in the community. I think we might have something coming up later about an event. Tomorrow, I'm going to meet with the principals, and one of the things that I'm going to ask them is that they're going to be giving me copies and or a summary in advance of what we're doing on that day. Again, it's not meant to make it more complicated for the teachers. There's not a direct timeline like you have to do this on this day. We're just trying to get, Roswell's a beautiful place to live. And again, kind of branch out and experience and develop more of a sense of community with that. On January the 27th, that is an in-service day for the district. It is a half day. We're going to dismiss at 12 o'clock. That's a Friday. And again, this is one of our PD days that we were able to count as a full day because we did have a half a day plus instruction. So parents, please plan ahead on that one, January the 27th. If you haven't had an opportunity, our new webpage is up and running. A big thank you to Jerry Holm and to Brian Yates. It is smartphone friendly. So if you haven't used it yet, the old one would get kind of wonky whenever you would get your phone out and start trying to go through it. But the new one, we've got a couple links that seem to be, I don't want to say broken. It's hard to be broken when they didn't work from the get-go. But I know we're going to get all that up and running, and it is really nice. So thank you to Jerry and Brian. Started something with our directors today, and it's going to carry on. Small stuff is stuff too. And by that I mean, let's start trying to make sure that things that may appear to be fairly small to us, that it's probably pretty important to somebody else. So let's make sure that we give everything our full attention and do our diligence when it comes to returning phone calls, to returning emails, to making sure that our grades book's up to date. Again, just, making sure that we're doing our jobs. I had a call yesterday from Mike McLeod with Excel as far as an opportunity for some of our elementary schools to partner with Excel to do some STEM work. Never going to turn down Excel, ever. Never going to turn down most organizations that come in and help us create a sustainable, systematic approach to helping our kids. I'm not a huge fan of one and done kind of stuff, but if you're going to have something that we can utilize and go forward with, so going to again visit with the principals tomorrow for elementary school people that want to volunteer to partner up with them and do a little bit of work. I'm not going to steal Ms. Cole's thunder. Still some work going on behind the scenes with Devon Energy and the Cal Ripken Senior Foundation as far as a STEM class room in every building. I know she's put in a ton of work on that, and I will let her give you an update on that at our February meeting. Just realize that that's continuing to go on. Matthew Pascal's not in here, but my goodness, he has done a tremendous job getting us some kiosks set up for our district employees that utilize timesheets, and having the ability to take our ID badges and swipe them and have it go into a digital component. I have worked feverishly with Matthew, with Ms. Trujillo, with Mr. Cole, as far as trying to make sure that we secure the funds for it, then make sure that it works. We've had multiple meetings, two large entities that have helped ensure that we're going to go forward. One is Christina Finley, who is in charge of our timesheets. And when we started talking about this, she was, man, her smile went up, and she says, "You don't know how much this can help me." So started trying to problem solve. So I did work with Miss Kim Meeks in our cafeteria department. We have checked into, could we get some of these kiosks to be in Spanish? Could we get directions in Spanish? Could we, I don't want this to be more troublesome for our employees. This is meant to make things easier. So we're not able to get, there's a formatting problem that we can't bypass the language. However, that doesn't mean that we can't have something sitting next to them that walks them through everything that they need to do. We've got it set up so that we're going to be able to put multiple kiosks in some of our larger buildings so that it's not, oh, I have to go in this door. And again, this isn't for everybody. Right now, this is just simply a way that we can help with our hourly employees. I want to thank Mr. Hill and Ms. Reese for bringing this to the attention of the district as far as, hey, this could work. And we're going to try it. And we're going to try it here first. So we're going to here, and then we're going to look at maybe one of our larger buildings to see, how does this work? But this is going to be something that we'll have. It's going to take a little bit of time, so I'll have a little bit more information about this at our next board meeting. But just, we had to talk really fast there for a while about, now you're going to monitor employees doing this and doing that. And I'm like, no, we're going to clock them in so that they don't have to go home at the end of the shift or get on a computer and try to navigate through a system and fill out a form. This is meant to make their lives easier. Some quick construction updates. Mesa Middle School construction moving forward. Again, from Mr. Sanchez, expecting students and staff to move into new areas. Spring break, March 27th, if highlighted, bolded, extra big, if everything works like it's supposed to. You know, we can't, as Mr. Cole made a comment a while ago, we supply chain issues and labor, I don't want to say shortages, but again, we've got a phenomenal construction crew over there, and they're killing it. And we want to continue to honor their time. It is a fluid project. So if everything works accordingly, we should have our kiddos in that building hopefully before the year is over.
In some parts of the building.
In some parts, correct. In some parts. And then that, that will open up another part to the construction. And any staff that goes through construction on site that you're trying to continue to do education in, God bless them. More power to them. I mean, if you haven't been in Mesa Middle School, I mean, we're right now we're eating lunches in the hallways because that's what we're doing. And they're making it work because I think they're seeing that prize at the end of the tunnel over there, and my goodness, it's going to be gorgeous. I'm super excited for them. Some other key updates. The lights are on at Roswell High. If you have not had a chance, or you weren't over there for the baseball field lights for the men's baseball field, they got those running, and it was funny because they got it up, they turned it on, and they turned it off. And I had a photo come to me from our construction manager. Hey, look at this. This is awesome. So I was super excited. I was going to tell the baseball coach, and Coach Lujan had already saw it on Facebook Live. Somebody had driven by and saw it, and he was like, hey, man, when do I get my key? I was like, be patient, but lights going up there. If you've been by the Woolbo and have saw some of the excavating equipment underneath the Woolbo, we're installing sidewalks, trying to make it more accessible for our fans that come to the ball game. Not a done. I'm not even going to look at Mr. Cole. I sure wouldn't look at Mr. Sanchez right now, but it's a tough sell. That's an old venue, and we're working on getting everything updated. To go along with that, Mr. French would probably like this. We have installed, and they are up and running, heating and cooling systems for the locker rooms at the Woolbo. Long overdue. At the Woolbo. Yes, ma'am. So. Yeah, after they're done, I'm sorry. But, they were heating with wall heaters, and in the summertime, we were looking at swamp coolers. So you just couldn't get the air moving in there enough. And hats off to Mr. Benedict, to Mr. Evans, to Chad. Help me with the contractor that did that one. Was that? Well, I don't want to say the wrong name and screw it up. So.
Yeah, that particular, there was more than one contract.
Okay. They had a monster time getting products. And so we waited and we waited and we waited, and it's, I think, saw it go through the other day that we're done. So congratulations on that. Again, Mr. Harold talked a little bit about cell phone boosters, doorbell cameras, finishing up that project as far as just a little bit of security. I'm putting these at the end of all of my superintendent reports, which is, if any of y'all would like to propose dates for committee meetings, please reach out to me. As far as, we'll stay the same, I guess, with the policy committee, the finance committee, and the audit committee. I want to make sure that these always end my superintendent updates, that if there was a date or something that you felt like you wanted to propose a meeting, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Okay. And Madam President, I'll now shift over to tonight. We're going to go with Mr. Hill and our HR update.
Mr. Luck, the administrative evaluations?
Oh, yes, ma'am. My goodness. I am so sorry. So you have a copy of two things. So one of them, I'll start with the state copy, which says Principals Evaluation Timelines, School Year 21-22. Okay, this is, I don't want to say, for the lack of a better word, what we have continued to use for the principals. So this is this one right here, Ms. Sanchez.
No, this one.
It's this one to start with.
Okay.
So this is
Right here.
state adopted timeline. So as our principals come in, this is what we evaluate all of our principals with. So on my eval sheet, one of them, it said administrators evaluation form. So I went ahead and put this one in for the principals as well, because I do evaluate them. I do use instruction. I do use their 90-day plan. For right now, we've kind of continued to follow the format that comes with this. It's after Christmas, we're fixing to shift over to Form C and D, where we start getting mid-year assessment. So I'll bring them in and we'll talk about how are things going. So at the front of the year, we preload a lot of that with Ms. Leonard, with the team, the principals team that is over there, getting their 90-day plans ready to go, identifying their areas of growth, setting that up, and then now it's going to shift over to where I'm going to pick up and say, okay, how'd you do? Show me what you did. So that is that packet right there. And then this second packet, which has five areas that I will evaluate. Well, actually, it's 6. The last one is a fairly plain-looking page, but that's a very specific one, and I'll get to that in a second. This is how I would like to be able to evaluate my senior staff, so my assistant superintendents. And since you guys a copy of this, again, we have 5 things: productivity and quality, decision-making and judgment, communication and interactions, a growth mindset and continuous improvement, initiative and influence. And then the last page is a very, very specific page for our district. I was talking with Ms. Whitcamp. I had the idea here in my head for probably about 2 weeks, which is taking something from the strategic plan. I did receive some feedback, so I want to say thank you for that. But I did take that idea and I ran with it, which is I want to take my senior staff and have them pick something from the strategic plan that relates to them specifically. And then I want to get from them, specific timelines. I want to know why, how, where, when decisions were made. Why did you pick this one? How did you address it? How do you think we did? I think as far as being able to work through it and then actually have, I don't want to say markers, or data, because some of them may not have concrete markers or data. But working with them to say, look, here's what you picked. Why did you pick it? How did we do? We're going to start with strategic plan updates at every one of our board meetings. I'll pick on Ms. Cole because she's not here. She had one tonight. So let's say she wanted to pick curriculum adoption. Okay, she has the data to prove what we did, how we did it, when we did it, who she had on the team. Was it successful? Was it not successful? She'll have feedback from committees. She'll have teacher input. She'll have parent input. So this one is a pretty lengthy one right here. And it's going to be very personal for the director or the assistant soups to be able to work through. And then I want to continue to use the same set of rubrics that's used for 1 through 5. I started trying to come up with a measuring stick different from the first set of guidelines. And I didn't like it. I even started with it meets or doesn't meet. And I was like, now that's not fair. Nobody evaluates you like that. Why would you want to do that to somebody else? So working through it, I was like, you know what? It's a good process that's here. I'll clean up that last page. I'll get it, to kind of match this one a little better. But I had a writer block with trying to put it down because I knew what I wanted to say. But it was trying to match some verbiage of the other 5 sheets that threw me. But in a nutshell, that's that last sheet is I want them, I think one of the beauties of our strategic plan is it's user-friendly and it makes sense. And I can point to it at any time. We've referred to it tonight already. And I wanted to continue that through this evaluation process. So I stand for questions on this last one.
I think the only question, do you have an idea on timeline as far as when this will start, how often you're going to meet, a quarterly basis, or what does it look like for you?
I think so in a nutshell, this needs to be done every year. So I need to be able to say, hey, my evaluations go every year. I think everybody else's need to follow through that process. As far as a revision, I don't think that it would be, and I hate to use the word fair, we're February before this really can get up and running. I would like to be able to put together that last one especially. So the first 5, I would probably say is going to be trial and error on the first 5, but that last one, I want to be able to bring before the board perhaps either at some type of a retreat or some type of an executive session, I would say, if not May, for sure June. So that I could, I want to be able to tie up my group, just like, point out, just as Ms. Trujillo in the Human Resources Department, I mean, my principals are doing it, our teachers are having to go through it, they're having to finalize their evaluations, they're having to submit their documentation. That way, we're all basically in the same boat.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Is this something that's gonna stay in their files? Or,
I believe it can. I would need to check with Mr. Ortiz to see if that, what I would need to do to keep in the CUME files.
and are you gonna have like, samples of if they exceed outstanding? For instance, number 1, will you have?
So what I would be able to bring to the board, and I don't know, again, as that it would be a personnel issue, I don't know that I would be free to share that with the board.
No, but for your own information.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
And you're starting with which one did you say?
The very last one.
Okay.
Number 6, the one that doesn't look real good.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Now I'll turn it over to Mr. Hill.
Board President Morales, Superintendent, members of the board. Thank you. I wanted to just quickly update you on the policies that were passed in December. You had asked for just a quick update, and I apologize, I wasn't here, I was sick. You still hear a little bit of the cough there. And sadly, I wasn't able to get on the communication. So as far as the nepotism policy, we are in the process of developing the questionnaire that's going to go out for people to be able to disclose when there is an existing relationship based on the policy that was adopted. And so it'll include the definition of the close family members, and then we'll just follow through. So we're in the process of that.
That goes for new hires or new applicants, right?
Actually, it's disclosing the current employees and then for the new hires as
Okay.
well. And so what we did is we've researched nepotism policies across the country. I brought some samples to Mr. Luck. We've already started our first rough draft, and so we're in the process of getting that ready. Okay.
Just to add,
Questions?
and it is a non-threatening. This one is really, really easy. It's identify, and it's in your building. Okay, some of them is specific to the building, and some of them is just
Supervising.
the supervisor. So, I mean, this is not an I got you moment at all.
And I do want to thank Ms. Sanchez and Mr. French for their input. I think it's been a long process with all of the policies, and it's been great to get the feedback. The second one that I wanted y'all to look at, and you should have that in board book, is the medical cannabis policy. Mr. Bewley did a great job of explaining the changes at the last meeting. So basically, it's just that state statute that we made sure that language was updated there. We did leave in where this originated from, which was the Lynn and Aaron Compassionate Use Act, and our legal counsel had said that was okay. We could have taken that out, but it was fine to show the origin of where it originated. And then also you see the end where it refers to all the statutes and what was added when. We did remove the Senate bills because, again, that was something that hadn't been law, and it is the statutes that guide that. Do y'all have any questions on that clean copy? It is ready to be submitted to the policy services, so we'll submit that after tonight. We just want to give you that opportunity to look and make sure that this was reflective of what you guys had brought up. The last one is the medical cannabis compliance checklist, and under the school responsibilities at the bottom, we had made sure to insert will follow state law and district protocols instead of just district protocols. And then also for cleaning up and then we added the destroying spillage and waste, which is a wording that is in the statute.
Just one question, Mr. Rehab. Are all staff been updated that these policies have been approved by the board?
Yes, and that did go out. We've actually had some feedback on several of these already where people are looking for them and they cannot find them. And so we've had to explain that these go to policy services and then they'll go out. But as far as what the wording is, this has all been shared already.
Thank you.
The next update that I wanted to give you is we are set up for 3 recruiting fairs already. We are checking into a total of 25 of those. Some of the criteria that we look at is like how many graduates do they have? What are the fields that they're coming out of? We look at the cost, not only for the actual fair, but also the traveling to and from. So one of my examples too can be that we got an invitation and information on a job fair in Oklahoma, and that one has 19 graduates. So then, is that feasible for us? Is that something that we want to look at? What are the graduates in? And so we will do our cost analysis, where we're going to get the bigger bang for our buck, and then we'll be able to put those out. We are currently enrolled in 3 job fairs already, and these are the College of Education Teacher Career Fair in Austin, Texas, the UNC Education and Employment Day, and then the one in San Marcos. And typically, those are the ones that we've had really great enrollment from and recruiting from. And so those are the ones that we've prioritized to make sure that they don't close off, because they have a limited number of recruiters that they'll allow in. But I do have that complete list, and I'll update y'all as we sign up for more recruiting fairs. I wanted to update y'all on the career ladder. As you know, we have a career ladder program that is available. We've got 4 different strands, actually 5 now with our Ed Fellows, that we are sponsoring to be able to build capacity and bring new teachers to be able to build the professional training in our district, because we all know where the shortages are, and we're having some really great leads. So currently and I'm giving you the report for the fall semester, we had 10 new students and I call them students, even though they're teachers for us, they're students for them, that have entered the alternative licensure program. We had 1 new Ed Fellow student. We had 18 returning students, of which 2 are going for counseling, and 1 for SLP. Just have to give that shout out there. So we had a total of 29 students in the career ladder at ENMU. At ENMU Roswell, we have 3 students. 2 of those were new Ed Fellow students. 2 of them were returning students. 1 was a new Ed Fellow student, and 2 were returning. We have 12 students in the CES LEAP program. It's an alternative licensing pathway, and we had 12 in the fall semester. So we have had a total of 44 individuals that we've been supporting through the career ladder. I would like to add that we have a new one that we just got approved with Mr. Luck, and that is the TESOL endorsement. This is something that I had been working on for a few years ago, and COVID hit, and you know how that goes. We kind of had to halt that. But we are going to be offering teachers, and this is about to go out tomorrow, now that you have been informed of it. But I want to say I talked to Mr. Luck like Monday, and I've got everything, was it Monday? Friday. And we've got everything in place now, have met with Eastern, and they're going to support us in starting our own cohorts, which mean that timing is customized just for the Roswell schools. And we are going to put out the information tomorrow. We have a 1-year program for licensing that will be available for teachers that have 6 credit hours already on their transcripts in 1 language, and 6 additional credit hours in qualifying classes like New Mexico history, some of the cultural components, multilingual, multicultural items. And then we'll have a 2-year program for teachers that may not have that in their background. And then just to remind you, TESOL strategies are strategies that you're going to use for any student. It is in English, but they're very, very helpful for students that have a different primary language other than English. So if you don't speak another language, you can still get the TESOL endorsement. And so we have had so much interest from our principals and their teachers that we think we're going to be able to form some good cohorts there. And we just appreciate our partners at Eastern and ENMUR. Frontline, you've already kind of talked about that one. We are working, it looks like we're on module 3 of 7 in getting us set up. We do thank Matthew Pascal, as you mentioned, for leading us there. Bottom line is we will have unlimited licenses as far as the sources. So if I want to download it as an app on my phone, then I'll be able to use that. And by me, I'm just saying the employees that are hourly. You can load them on your computer, on any device. And so aside from the kiosks that Mr. Luck mentioned, then we'll also provide that for the ease for our employees. I wanted to visit with you a little bit to update you on the Ed Fellows for the first semester as well. As you know, the grant that we wrote and were approved for was for up to 30 EAs. In August, we had 6 Ed Fellow EAs. In September, we had 11. In October, we had 14. In November, we had 13. And we finished off December with 13 Ed Fellows. Currently, we do have several positions posted. As you know, we have a limited pool. So when we have, people applying for substitutes or for EAs at their, child's building, and then their Ed Fellows has been filled already, then of course we have more of a limited pool. But we are working to get those positions filled. Almost all of those have at least one in there. And we've also given out $12,000, again reimbursable, not paid out of the Roswell Schools funds. These actually come from reimbursed by the state, and Region 9 is the one that oversees it, and it is a monthly report and a monthly reimbursement that we go through. We paid out $12,000 in stipends for those that are attending college, and they had to meet the requirement where they had to be enrolled and active in their career, whatever that pathway was, not limited to just education. The retirement report, I just want to let you know that in December we had 3 new retirements. As of today, we have 3 that have announced that they'll be retiring at different intervals during the spring. We hired 12 new hires. 4 of those, this is for the month of December. 4 were certified employees, 1 was classified employee, and 7 substitutes. Resignations, we had 2 certified employees and 2 classified employees. We had the 4 retirements, and we've had 1 in-district transfer. On the vacancy report, and please stop me at any time if you have any questions. On the vacancy report, as far as our certified positions, we have 18 positions open in elementary education. We have 21 total in secondary. Breaking that down, that is 7 in middle school and 12 at the high school level.
So about 39 certified teachers. So this is the
Yes,
lowest we've
37.
been in how many years?
In more years than I can count.
So that's awesome. That's a celebration. Thank you.
And aside from that, we still have all of our other positions that are open,
Yeah.
Game help and, substitutes for custodian, substitutes for cafeteria, and along those lines. But that's where we stand on our certified staff. So I think it's a big celebration, and I can tell you exactly which positions are open in each of the schools. Of those, we have 6 of those are SPED and 3 are gifted. Everything else is general ed. We had 5 new substitutes that were processed and 3 new substitutes. We've got 1 still pending the background check. Our fill rate that Mr. Mata shared with y'all in the month of December has continually been up. We're looking at between the 80s and 90s every single day. In December, we had an 84.3 fill rate with substitutes. So we really celebrate that, and I know Mr. Luck really championed that for us last month. For us to have that high of a fill rate is just amazing. I can tell you that districts around us are really suffering. One of the districts shared with me that they were at a 35% fill rate. So that is really dire even now for them. So again, that's a huge celebration for us. And we do have some anomalies. For example, during the month of December, the week of December 18th through 24th, it was just the 242 employees, yet some of them put in for a sub, and then if it didn't get filled, that gets counted. And again, that's more of a mistake where they put it in incorrectly. So that 84% might actually be a little bit higher. We do have 38 long-term subs in positions with the district. And that was for the month of December. And I believe that is all I have, unless you guys have any questions for me.
I just want to echo I want to do 2 real quick. Thank you, subs.
Yes.
December, everybody was sick. I mean, we had districts all around us that were closing. Thank you to the cafeteria subs that came in and made it happen, the custodial subs, the teaching. I mean, that never was an option for us. We never even had to get to that point. And then one real quick thing. When you hear the word TESOL strategies, make the connection to at-risk students, and immediately you can make the connection to our district is continuing to work to satisfy Martinez Yazzie, because that's at risk. So TESOL strategies for whether that be English learners, whether that be struggling learners at risk. So thank you to Eastern for partnering with us with that. Mr. Bewley.
Very briefly, again. We did mention speaking of subs, just to reiterate, we're having our training for our math teachers with the TI-84 at the end of the month. And this will give you plenty of time to find a good sub. Thank you for providing that for us. And speaking of winter sports, we've got chess and the Quiz Bowl coming up. January 20th, the 3rd grade, January 24th, 4th grade, January 26th, the 5th grade, and that's, I think that's skipping a Sunday, and that's gonna be right here in the building. Looking forward to that. January 21st, the computer science training with open source kids. That's going to be focusing on binary and data this particular session. And in addition to our teachers that were featured in the flashlight video, Jeremy Busby from Sierra and Chris Carrillo III from Mountain View have been invited by PED to apply for the 2023 Instructional Materials Summer Review Institute for Computer Science. So, big long title there. That's really good. And I think it's really great that you know, we see that Roswell has a seat at the table. And, you know, they're looking for us to help out and participate. And we were trying to figure out when the last time that the PED was down here for an audit of the ESL. I think it must have been like 4 years now. I was texting Ms. Nieta Walker, and it was between 3 and 4. So they did come down, they looked around, you know, they checked things out, but kind of pro forma, because, you know, we keep up very good, and we stay in good standing with the state. We're right now in the middle of IMASA for grades 3 through 8, so that'll close on the 20th, and by the 27th, they should have all the data they can shoot at that time. Access is coming up. I want to thank Ms. Nieta Walker from the Multicultural Office, keeping up with all of our influx of students. We've had every day 15, 20, 30 students moving in, moving out, going back and forth. So we're really trying to keep up so that our access is very successful. And even though not all of our campuses have the flashlight program, there is practice available so that our students will be familiar with that when they finally sit down to actually take that. And again, it is the productive language, writing and speaking, that is harder for our students to produce. And it goes for our English students as well, because we have a writing component as part of the NMASA in April. And so that's a challenge that we haven't been doing a lot of writing, but COVID's over, so we can't stop talking about that. We gotta move on. Any questions on any of that? Okay, thank you.
Board, as well, Ms. Cole has provided you with a curriculum and instruction update. Should you have any questions over that, please don't hesitate to reach out to Ms. Cole or to me, and we can make sure that we get all of that answered. Going to have to work on some of our statewide trainings and get them off of days after our board meetings, because it does kind of help. It hurts us whenever we're working on trying to get our people safely to their destinations for their trainings. So see if I can make the state work on that for us a little bit. So we will let that be sufficient for curriculum instruction and move over to Mr. Cole, Finance.
Board President Morales, Superintendent-elect, members of the board. So just a great big thank you to Maria Hernandez. As you know, she's our new Director of Business Services, and she has completed all the employees' W-2s early, very early. So CPAs and tax preparers and employees that like working on their tax returns ahead of time, they're going to get a head start thanks to Maria Hernandez. And she did a great quality control on those things, and just super proud of the job she's done, and I know the hard work that she's put into it recently. So thank you to Maria for that. We've just wrapped up the second quarter of the current fiscal year. So what that means for us in the business office is that it's reporting time. It's time to work up all those reports that go to PED and do some tax calculations for the county, et cetera. So we'll be working on those, and those will be due here pretty quick at the end of this month. It'll be here before we know it. In the maintenance department, congratulations to Mr. Keith Clausen. He has recently retired. He's essentially our warehouse and inventory manager. So he works with our financial auditors every year to make sure those inventories go well and we don't get any audit findings on that side of it. And he also keeps a nice flow, in particular through the last couple of years with COVID. That gentleman has worked his proverbial tail off and done an outstanding job. So thank you, Keith. Sean Benedict and Daryl Evans are working to transition our new person in that role, and my understanding is that's going very, very well. It's about this time of year where we start contemplating our bulk orders for things like toilet paper, copy paper, all those things that we can buy in bulk at a discount and store and then distribute out to our schools, so it's a savings to the district overall. Part of that in years past has been some PE supplies. Of course, we don't have the warehouse capacity to be a sports store, but we're going to start looking at those with our new person as well here pretty quickly. We're still having supply chain issues. I think it's important that everybody know that. I don't bring it to you every month, but food services in particular, lots of food items, but other items as well. It hasn't become a problem. We know that the lead times are longer. We're working through that and kind of anticipate that. But just so you know, particularly on the food side, it's concerning. We built that new cold storage at Roswell High and then extended it again last year or year before last. And so we've got that thing full to capacity, and thank goodness for the timing of when that thing came online. So another initiative you're going to hear about probably be talking with school board members across the state, and certainly in the 60-day legislative session, which kicks off, I believe, this Friday or next Tuesday, something like that, is food service operations for school districts throughout the state of New Mexico. The new director, deputy secretary, I believe, really wants to make a push for home-cooked meals. So it's Mr. Edwards is very familiar with this issue. We love the idea, but we don't have the capacity, and neither does anybody else, by the way, the capacity, the square footage in our kitchens, the delivery trucks, all of the things that you need to have that, to make that work. So I've talked to Ms. Meeks and told her, asked her, requested her to please work diligently with our state officials and let them know that we would love to do that. But we need to make sure we get it right, because it's going to take time, money, and facilities, infrastructure, yada, yada. So I'll just, we need to be realistic when we come up with these brilliant ideas that we want to implement for our kiddos, because a disruption of that can blow a lot of things up. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Would that negotiate or supersede some of the federal guidelines for nutrition that we have to follow?
It's a great question. No, it can't supersede them. The Fed guidelines on student nutrition rule. So salt intake, that's always been an issue, particularly on the salt side. So if you can't use any salt at all, guess what? They don't want to eat it. They don't want to eat it. I mean, it's got to be good enough to where they want to eat it. So we've seen that in some administrations where they really cut back the salt, and it was like, the kids are throwing these things in the dumpster, and it's like, but these are great ideas in theory a lot of times, but you've got to do the research, and you got to collaborate with the entire state, the people that are on the ground. That collaboration piece is the piece we're missing. So we're, like I said, we're about to go into a legislative session where they're talking about $4 billion to schools, public school. So there's money. I think that's $4.2 billion, and I've seen in good years where it's 3 billion, 3.2, 3.5. So, I mean, this is a really good year in terms of money. So if we're going to talk the talk, let's walk the walk, legislators. If we're going to try and implement new criteria that everyone must follow, one, you need time to implement that. And I just talked about the supply chain. We can't get delivery trucks. We can't get food delivery trucks. We can't get not cooled trucks, just regular food delivery trucks. There's a 2-year wait on those, and we need them. And so we've ordered 2. But you know, there's simple things that it requires to get there. Now, I mean, we couldn't go expand a brand new kitchen that's not large enough to handle the equipment and capacity you need. But what we could do is consider a couple of centralized sites where maybe we had some capital outlay money from the legislators to build a dedicated kitchen. And then we could distribute out from there fresh cooked meals. But you need the equipment to do it. You need the stoves. You need the mixing, all those things. So just know that when you're hearing that, we love the idea. We truly do. Let's put the money and the time, resources, the understanding, the collaboration piece in there with it, if we could, from the state level. We talked about supply chain. Let's see. In terms of grants, we're about to start ramping up. You know, it's this time of year where we start thinking about budget. Again, we've got a 60-day session. I'm a budget finance guy. I'm not crazy about a 60-day session. Let's get it over with in 30 days. You know, we're not, waiting around, all that stuff. So 60 days for me pushes everything out. Essentially, I don't know what we're doing, what we have to do, what we can't do, what we're going to get funded for. I don't know any of that until the 60-day session ends. And I think the governor has about 2 weeks before she can pocket veto or sign the legislation. So I don't know until we get there. And then we have a spring budget workshop after that in April. That's where we get all the gory details about insurance rates and how those always go up and, all of those things. So that puts a guy like me in limbo 30 extra days. But I generally like to try and start our budget committee meetings in February. I like to keep them close by, February, March, April. Typically, it's due to PED in May. Then they reminisce over it through the month of June, and they don't approve ever until the first day of July. But as you know, I've always said my main goal is let's make sure we have budget in place to cover payroll, and then we got payroll ready to rock and roll as of July 1, because we can't drop that ball ever. You'll see a lot of federal grants coming through. Like I said, there's a lot of money out there. There's a lot of CARES Act money, all that stuff. Security awards, you just need the security experts to write those applications. Let's write them. Let's go. Let's do that. Send them in. Now's the time. The money's there. The money is there. We need to go get it. And I think there, Carl Perkins, Jen asked me to apologize for not being here for the strategic planning piece. She's been asked to present at the Carl Perkins Conference, and they are presenting their digital next step plan, which Roswell is leaps and bounds ahead of everybody in the state, so they asked her to present it.
Thank you. And Mr. Cole, just a reminder for you and the board, we did mention this year for the budget, we want to have a special meeting so that we're giving you time and our attention and not putting you on the end of an agenda for a long regular meeting. So this year we'll plan for a special meeting for that.
That'd be perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else?
So, yes, ma'am, just one real quick thing, and it follows, and I've waited till the end with this. So with a 60-day legislative session, year 2 for me, feel a little bit more comfortable about being able to attend. It is longer. What I would request of the board is if you hear of specific days, meetings, committee meetings, days, things going to the legislature. I'm trying to keep up to date with my Superintendent's Association, but if you hear of days that you're like, we'd like you to be there, or I feel like that would be a good day, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm still working up my channels as far as information. I know I've got 2 right now for sure that I'll go up there. One of them is an award that the cafeteria is going to get, and then another one is a primer for us as new superintendents with the legislators. So, and then a reception for the Chamber of Commerce is on another day. So, looking for me right now at potentially 3, 4, possibly as many as 10 trips up there. Don't hesitate to reach out to me, please. And that does conclude my reports for tonight, ma'am.
Anything else? All right. Do we have on there for board updates or no?
Communication,
Do we have, yeah, okay, thank you. Okay, board, anything, any updates, acknowledgements from us? Alrighty. So notice is hereby given that the Board of Education of the Roswell Independent School District will meet in executive session pursuant to NMSA Section 10-15-1 regarding the following matter where no action will be taken. Union collective bargaining strategy. May I have a motion to go into executive session where no action will be taken?
So moved.
May I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. A motion made by Ms. Sanchez and a second made by Mr. Cheney. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it and the motion carried, and we will dismiss right after, so.